Yeah, here we are. Here we are.
Yeah, you did it.
Yeah, it is, you know. Anyway, let me share my screen and then we'll take it from there. Oh, yeah.
Yes. Here we are. Here we are.
Yeah,
Okay.
you did it.
Yeah, it is, you know. Anyway, oh my.
I think you have to mute your YouTube.
Yeah, you have muted YouTube. You have to mute. Go to mute then. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. And shall I then just minimize the screen? Yes. I'm really new to this.
That's all right. Enjoy. You can play with it.
Okay. The meeting is being got it. Okay. Okay. Welcome everyone. Let me just share my screen, I think, without which it's a non-starter. Let me just, sorry guys, thank you for your patience from current slide. Okay. So a little bit of a quick mantra and then we delve straight in. So I'm going to begin with the, let me just start with the recording as well. Okay, so I'm going to begin with the Ganesh mantra and a little Shiva mantra, and then we can dive in. So, Gananam tva ganapatim havamahe kavin kavinamupamashravastamam jyeshtarajam brahmanam brahmanaspata anashranvannuti bhisidha sadhanam. Om Ganeshaya Namah. And the next one. Okay. Sadashiva Samaramba Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om. Okay, welcome everyone. Today we have the format for, it's going to be a few couple of hours, and I'm very, very excited to have all of the panel people here. And this year I have added also with Tania and Rod Chang. Rod Chang will be doing modern Western astrological approach for 2022. And Tania Daniels is a Hellenistic and a fantastic researcher. Western traditional is her forte. And she, in fact, does quite a few texts from what the conversation I heard earlier on, but we'll come back to that. And it's when, you know, after we are done with the Jyotish, we'll get her to speak a little bit about the traditional aspects and what she's been up to. So they will be giving us their approach, but that's in the second half. We begin with our Jyotish perspective. We have Gordon Brennan, who is one of the key original Gemini scholars with Guruji, our parampara, which is the Pandit Sanjay Rath from Puri, Jagannath Puri tradition. Also, we have Paul Barker, who is also a Gemini, you know, he's finished his Gemini. The speciality of Gordon Brennan is he also is one of the co-founders and original founders of the Bava, as well as he's on the committee. He is also a speaker every year, and his speciality is definitely mundane. You know, he loves that. Along with Paul, he is the head of. Sorry, could you switch off the mics, please? Margarita, mute yourself, please. Thank you. And we also have Paul Barker, who is the head of Theosophical Society. at the Leeds chapter, and he's got beautiful premises there up at Leeds. If you're ever there, feel free. And then we have Theo Naicker from South Africa. He is also part of our tradition. He is enrolled in all the 3 courses, Mantra Shastra like myself, and doing Gemini, as well as teaching, as well as Western, psychological approach, though he also does Western traditional, and as well as, of course, Vedanga Jyotish. So a very, very vibrant panel we've got here from all walks and disciplines. So let's get started. I think we've been suffering quite a lot for past few years. So just a little, so you recognize the faces. So I'm going to start with each of us will do like a few initial 5 or so minutes, just introducing some of the concepts and, some of the concepts, and then we will come back for another round where we will speak. Please kindly, excuse me, please, can you mute yourselves, please? That will be very helpful. Okay. And so now 2022 is quite interesting. Vedic numerologically, it does add up to number 6, which is Venus, by at least the Vedic numerological ways, adds up to number 6, which is sort of a lot to do with resources, finances, I would imagine. But now this year, what is even getting more interesting is that we have a Yama Yoga happening. That is a Saturn-Mars conjunction. Interestingly enough, along with that, it's literally followed in April by the Yama Yoga. We get 16th of April, a lunar eclipse in the nakshatra of Ashwini. And 2 weeks later, we have a solar eclipse again in Ashwini. I may have to look up. I haven't put up the chart because the focus hasn't been on that. But now this is kind of changing signs where it has been in Taurus and Scorpio, Rahu and Ketu axis, and now it's moving into the fire and the element of air, and along with Saturn, which comes in beginning of May into Aquarius. And so for 6 months it is going to be in Aquarius, where it goes back into here. I'm going to share quickly. On 3rd of May, Saturn is in Aquarius. It has just entered Aquarius. You can see it's 0 degrees, it's Sankranti. And Mars is, again, it's another Yama Yoga happening literally a month down the line in Aquarius. As you can see, 4th of April is happening in Capricorn, and a month later, it's in Aquarius. And kindly, please mute yourselves. Please, that will help. Yeah. So, so literally, as you can see, this is a Yama Yoga. Yama Yoga from the Vedic standpoint is massive transformations. I am going to, at the later stage, towards the end, discuss also what moon signs and what lagnas and what ascendants will get affected specifically by this configuration and by the eclipse configuration. But after we have dealt with the mundane. And I also want to point out that these 2, April and May, because of the eclipses and the lunar eclipse happening before, if you do have sun in Ashwini or, significant planets in, especially the Lagna in Ashwini, then you are going to feel relationship troubles going to be, emerging. for sure, especially because the lunar eclipse is before the solar eclipse, which is one of the classic rules of Varamira. So now what's interesting here is that the Saturn Mars is in Capricorn, and 4 planets in 4 different signs, and similar configuration 1 month later, 4 planets in 4 different signs, and that is called something known as Kedara Yoga. So on a collective level, we are feeling this energy of the Kedara Yoga, whose overseer lord is Mercury. Now, the state of Mercury in Navamsha is debilitated, so it doesn't bode well. Mercury is commercial institutions, finances, anything to do with businesses and all of that. So there will be some amount of, we are going to feel the pinch, financial pinch, for sure, and so we are going to come back and talk about that. So let me just quickly move on. The Samvatsara. Now, if you go on my website, Circle of Divine Astrology, and type in Samvatsara, this is like the Jovian years. Jupiter, each of the years has got a specific meaning. You can browse around what it means. But last year was Plava, and from Plava, at the Chaitra Shukla Pratipat 2022, which is the new year happening on in the month of Chaitra, that time we move into Shubha Krut. That is the year it's called Shubha Krut. 2022, March 2020 or April 2022 to 2023, we enter into the year Samvatsara, it's called, of Shubha Krut. Now, what is interesting is I found this pretty fascinating. Various texts have the Samvatsara is nothing but a year, is Plava. So last year was Plava. And here from the notes, I think it is from the Yavana Jataka, it says on worldly matters, there will be widespread contagious epidemics during the year. And we have already bearing the brunt of it with the Omicron and all of that. And so the grain crops will be affected by pests. We already in the UK, there was a lot of problems with suppliers and supply chain and stuff like that on food. They were rumoring there weren't going to be enough meat and all sorts of stuff like that on the shelves. And later excessive rains will cause havoc. Please bear in mind, this is on a worldwide level. So excessive rains have given problems. Southern India and quite a few places has had problems there. Now, Shubha Krut is a little bit better, so we can be a little bit hopeful. On a personal level, I won't go into it. You can read it on my website. But here, Yavana Jataka holds the views that Shubha in Sanskrit obviously means auspicious, and Kruta is, so it's like a whole word meaning doing something, deeds of goodness or auspicious deeds. Now, this Samvatsara is well-versed in his work, reputed religious ascetic person. So again, so it has a kind of, on a mundane level, it is that in spite of probably all the financial difficulties and, a lot of negativity that we have been feeling on a collective level from the world governments, doesn't matter which government it is, I think we are feeling the tyranny of the governments, and that I think we will hopefully be able to overcome. But I am not entirely convinced as we will go along regarding financial. I think this is going to be, a little bit of a calm before the big storm in 2023 in terms of financial crisis. So let's move on. And then I will later come back to the Queen. She was looking a little bit unwell a couple of months ago. Undoubtedly, her husband has passed away, Prince Philip. So obviously that will have a bearing. She is getting on. So we will have a look at a chart. And of course, Gordon and everyone is welcome to comment on, and Paul, about, the future of royalty. And also the NHS. I am going to come back again with the NHS. This is the chart when it was actually, this is the very first photograph taken regarding the inception of NHS, the first few patients and things like that on 5th of July, 1948. A historic moment, of course, indeed, but with Brexit, it has had a huge repercussions. And so we will look at it. This chart I have set to daylight, and, only because of the picture there, I don't think there is a specific time, but I would go with Shani in Cancer because for various reasons, it is a bit of a Raj Yoga. And I think NHS has had a phenomenal run, absolutely phenomenal. So, okay, so let's move to Paul. Paul, welcome. And what do you have to say about the Chaitra Shukla Pratipad for UK? Paul? Paul, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I was unmuted. Don't worry, I'm here.
Okay,
But
okay.
I'm saying you've said it all. There's nothing left for me to say, basically.
No, you have loads to say. I've just recapped a little bit. Yeah, go on.
Okay. If I look to the side, it's because I've got the chart. So I think everybody can see the Chaitra Shukla chart. Sun and Moon in Pisces at the same degree, 17 degrees, 21 minutes. So this is from the 1st of April, 2022. I was actually going to just step back from that and mention that the solar eclipse on the 4th of December was interesting because it was on the fixed star Antares.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, when we say these things are good or bad or auspicious or inauspicious, my understanding, Antares is a huge red star.
Yeah.
It dwarfs our own sun considerably. And it is said to be a warlike situation for an eclipse to take place there. And that seems to be the thing looking at the Chaitra Shukla chart. I would also add that I think the eclipse on Antares could also indicate advances in technology, I would imagine, possible space flight, which of course is taking place. And this will be the theme for 2022 in any case. So I think, on the positive side, we can see advances in technology, and I wouldn't be at all surprised if that means space flight, which of course is happening with the launch of the new telescopes, placing Hubble, for example.
Wow.
So that's that might even indicate whether there's life on other planets by examination of the atmospheres of planets, in other solar systems. So, the coming year or coming few years could be very interesting from a scientific point of view. But nevertheless, I think there is the theme of conflict, and that will be the underlying theme for 2022 from April onwards, although also the next 3 months as well, basically, because of what I've just said. Looking at the chart, of course, we have this Shula situation where the visible planets are in 3 houses.
Yeah.
Stretching from Capricorn to Pisces. Rahu, Ketu in the 2-8.
Absolutely.
From Taurus to Scorpio, which, just to reiterate what you've said, I think is pretty bad for the economy. And I noticed today, looking at one of the websites, that it was predicted that household bills in the UK are going to rise by an average of about £1,200 per year, which is very bad news. This is due to rising taxes, particularly national insurance, as well as energy. and other situations, rising energy costs.
Yeah.
So that's going to lead, I'm afraid, to to conflict, and that may be by design. The visible planets in 3 signs, so the Karaka of that is Mars. So, in my view, it's not a particularly happy situation from the point of view of what might be happening on the streets, because you've mentioned the Saturn-Mars situation in the 10th house. There's an aspect from Rahu, so that's there's a storm point in 10th house Capricorn. Where Mars and where Saturn and Rahu have their influence, so that's the common point. It is a Yama Yoga, which indicates restriction and basically not a very happy situation.
Yeah.
The year lord is Venus. If we look at the chart for the sun's ingress into Aries, which happens about 2 weeks after the Chaitra Shukla on the 1st of April, then I think the day lord is Mercury. So again, that has implications. Mercury could represent the Prime Minister, for example. Boris Johnson does have a Virgo Lagna. His situation isn't particularly strong overall, in my opinion. I mean, the polls are indicating that if there was a general election now, he would actually lose his seats and there would be a hung parliament. So politically, it's going to be quite turbulent. And the sun in the 12th house, sun is significant of government, could indicate the government's in for a lucky ride, and that is happening now. As I say, if there was an election tomorrow, there'd be a hung parliament, which wouldn't do the people any good, because Keir Starmer is a globalist in the same way Boris Johnson is. So, it doesn't really matter who gets in, the situation would still be unsatisfactory. Jupiter and Venus in the 11th house is probably not too bad. I'm intrigued by the placement between Saturn as the Amachi Karika and Jupiter as the Bhatri Karika. So I'm not sure of the significance of that, but there is that replacement taking place there. So Rahu is the Atma Karika, which is significator, if you like, of the soul of the chart, if you want to put it in those terms. Rahu as Atma Karika normally gives a difficult time, certainly on a personal level. People with Rahu as the planet with the Graha with the highest longitude, the Atma Karika, tend to have a fairly difficult life, I've noticed. Rahu is at just 35 minutes of Taurus, so it's strong in Taurus, but it is in Sankranti. Obviously, to get the highest longitude, we deduct the degree from 30 degrees, and that's why it's the highest Graha, the planet with the highest longitude. So, visible planets in 3 signs. In our tradition, we don't normally consider the outer planets, but I started looking at these in terms of mundane astrology, not for personal astrology. Pluto in Capricorn for some 20 years indicates, my understanding indicates totalitarian governments worldwide that we're experiencing at the moment.
Absolute.
And that Saturn-Mars conjunction there doesn't bode well. Uranus in Aries is 4 houses away from Saturn, and again, I'm really quoting from some of the American astrologers on this, but this creates tension between Saturn being the forces of democracy and seeking truth, and also Uranus wanting liberation and planets of unexpected events. But this 410 situation seems to create a tension both within people and within society. And of course, we've been bombarded with a lot of lies and propaganda at the moment. Boris Johnson's been up to his tricks just in the past 24 hours, which has come out today. His pronouncements have just been based on nothing really beyond anecdotal. So this atmosphere of fear Ketu in the 8th house Scorpio, again, can indicate, more pandemics and so on. But there is the feeling that there's a lot of underhand things taking place, and the country as hidden enemies and outside forces trying to influence what's taking place. So, we can speculate forever and a day who these forces might be, but, my view, the government is not acting in the best interests of the country. So it's going to be some inevitable conflict, which is maybe what they want. I don't know. The economy is going to be in trouble over the coming years, certainly at the level of the individual household. That's been confirmed this morning, if we believe what we read in the mainstream media. So on the good side, whenever things get bad, it's a good time for spiritual people to come out and, to give some message to the world. And it's a good time for spirituality in general to flourish in difficult circumstances. So, I would urge people to meditate and perhaps not listen so much to, some of the mainstream media. I don't watch television, and I'm a lot better from it, from the pollution that comes from the television, in my opinion. Jupiter going into Pisces later on in the year, I think, will be, a positive development. I think there'll be an increase in mysticism, so maybe we'll see an upsurge in Vedic astrology.
Are you saying that because the sun and moon are in the 12th house?
Well, I think, they are afflicted by aspects from Saturn.
Yeah.
So again, I was referring more to Jupiter eventually passing into Pisces later on.
But there is, I get that, but there is a lot of papkartari going on. There is in fact two papkartaris going on. One is on the Lagna ascendant, because sun moon will, for an Aries Lagna, sun moon is a big Raj Yoga, but the sun is in Maranasthana in the 12th house.
It is.
So I almost feel that there'll be a lot of like mass exodus of people leaving the UK perhaps, or at least desiring to leave. Whether they can leave or not is a different matter.
But they can't get out. I can't get out of the country. So, where they're going to go, the building prisons and gulags in this country. They have them in Australia. The 12th house also relates to prisons.
Absolutely.
And the government is building very large prisons. There's one at Wellingborough, and I think they're going to build one. They're going to build about half a dozen at least to begin with. These things have crematoria attached to them, so I think we're entering a very dark period for the time being. Sun and Moon afflicted in the 12th, afflicted by Saturn. It can indicate again more turmoil and secret enemies and so on. So, it's not a good time.
No,
basically, the economy
not at all.
The economy is going to be in trouble, but that's by design.
And the Jupiter Venus is also, caught up between the Papkartari. So it's like anywhere you look, the whole thing is Papkartari, the 11th house as well as
right.
It's a problem.
All the planets in 3 signs with Mars as the significator, Mars is actually, it's exalted, but it's in that storm point, conjunct Saturn and aspected by Rahu.
Yeah.
But it's a time, if it's bad in the mundane thing, then Mars is the spiritual warrior, particularly I think in Capricorn. So Capricorn is the graveyard, sadly, unfortunately. So I am anticipating more conflicts on the streets, which has already happened in the past year.
Yeah,
it doesn't get reported much, but there's going to be a lot more coming. And
oh, absolutely. I mean, I already, there is, in London, on Trafalgar Square, Charing Cross, there's already so many protests happening, and the media is not covering it at all, which is sort of ironic. But yet there is a lot of backing going on behind the scenes. people in villages don't underestimate, there is a lot of unrest. We can see, we can feel that. Gordon, do you have anything to add? And then we move to Theo. Sorry, Nathan. Any comments on this?
Oh, on this?
Yeah.
Yes, the 10th house also represents pilgrimage. If it gets difficult, people decide to go. So not necessarily go abroad or give up, get fed up, go away, become disgusted with things, retire, stay at home, all kinds of things that they can you can it can be labeled under go on a pilgrimage. And with Rahu and Ketu both having Rashi aspects, and
Absolute.
Rahu also a planetary aspect
And
on
Graha
Capricorn.
Drishti, yes.
Yes. Yeah, so there's a lot of energy in Capricorn, which is a kind of depressing place. If you're not triumphing, then it's a bit depressing.
True.
I mean, it's the house of business. So I mean,
oh yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I think big business may do well.
Yeah, big business. Yeah.
But big business will always do well. There's been this enormous transfer of wealth from the lower orders, which I include myself, up to the big pharmaceutical and technology companies and everything. And looks like that's going to continue. I don't know how it's going to be stopped.
Well, there's another thing that Jupiter and Saturn are on the same degrees, and Jupiter's in slightly lower degrees. So I think this difficulty represented by Saturn, who's the Karaka for disease, is Jupiter is working against it basically, and it's going to make progress.
Yeah.
Yes, well, yes, they are on that's the replacement that I was talking about. They are on the same degree, around about 27 to 28 degrees.
Yeah.
So I was wondering what the significance of that was really, but Jupiter hopefully will. I don't think it's actually. I mean, it is a Karaka for the 11th house. It's in Aquarius, which is friend sign, so it's not too bad there. But nevertheless, I have my doubts about some things. I'm hoping that sort of Jupiter representing the law might come through. I mean, there is the Nuremberg trial taking place, so I'm led to believe, and that was meant to come to some sort of decision in the summer next year. So hopefully that will go in the right direction, and there might be something to reverse some of the sorts of extremes that's taking place at the moment. But
yeah,
well, we'll have to see. I'm not optimistic, but we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that Jupiter is, but actually the replacement may not be such a bad thing, because Jupiter is Bhatrikaraka, and it is very well placed in the 11th house. So yeah, and it is it's going to be, I mean, I think it probably is the sort of the saving grace for us, even though it's in the Badak Sthan, which is going to be another creating another set of problems. But I think in terms of Badak, I think that Venus will take the brunt of that Badak. I have a feeling, because it is literally what degrees it is. It's pretty low degrees.
It's the direct Karaka, so it represents wealth.
Yeah.
Yes, and Venus is the one who fights back out of the.
Yeah. So so both the gurus in the 11th is different styles of fighting, but nevertheless. Anyway, we may come back with this. Nathan, you have any comment to make? And then we move to you for Africa.
No, let's just go, because the comments I'm going to make generally apply to all the charts. So
yeah,
it will apply to this one also.
Absolute. Yeah. Okay, so let's move on. So this is for Chaitra Shukla for South Africa.
Yeah, if you could just make me the co-host so I can use my pen, if
Yeah.
that's okay.
1 sec. Hang on.
I see it's already working. I'm not sure if it's going to. Right.
Okay, go on then.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay, it's not working, but okay, then I'll just speak then. So basically I included a bit of 2021 because you still have like three months of 2021 left. And sometimes that can't be ignored in setting up dynamics for the new year, starting from April next year. So that's why I've just included them. And I've put the glyphs of the signs for our Western astrologer friends to hopefully be able to follow along. So the interesting thing with this, the Chaitra Shukla Pratipad of 2021 and as well as 2022 is that there's a Kala Sarpa Yoga in the charts, in both of them.
Yep.
And so that enforces the Rahu energy very strong as the controlling graha for the time. And we do feel a bit in that binding still that we're in. And being in the sign of Taurus, obviously the whole world globally, in terms of the economic, financial pressures, unemployment, the repercussions of that still have to be resolved globally. I think that is still a noose that is there. But the interesting point is that in both the cases, Venus is working very hard to nullify it. In the 2021 charts, the Kala Sarpa, you can see that Mars is in Taurus and Venus is in Aries. And so by that exchange, Venus is trying very hard to overcome. And we've seen that in terms of Venus signifying the private sector and Venus signifying also global travel and also the rejuvenation energy, just as a karaka for that, is trying very hard to push, better medical science investigation, better vaccines, better opening up of travel, as well as the business and private sector really working very hard to shore up as much of the financial issues that may be coming up. So we see that happening in the 2021 charts across the board, but also you just go to the 2022 chart quickly just to demonstrate. In the 2022 chart, you can see here as well by Parivartana with Rahu, the Venus is also trying to break that Kala Sarpa Yoga, and the Rahu being in Taurus, which is a sign of Venus, and Venus being in Aquarius, which is a sign of Rahu, that Venus again in both these years, the Venus is really playing a very strong role in trying to ameliorate or to break the binding. And I think really in this year, 2022, especially the second half of the year, yes, maybe the medical things are relaxing a lot. I think from February to June, the travel things are going to open up, start to open up. But I think the financial pressures then become a question for the second half of the year. So just looking at South Africa in 2020, just leaving 2021, if you just go back, Sonal.
Yeah.
So that's a general statement that applies to all the charts and globally. So can you see my pointer? I'm not sure.
No.
Yes, I can see a pointer moving.
That's my purple one. That's mine. Where's yours?
I beg your pardon.
You haven't made me the co-host, but
I have made you a co-host. Yeah. You are the co-host.
Maybe it came up as a notice. Okay, I will just talk. Okay. So what I want to say is, being Pisces ascendant, Surya, the sun is a major issue, having Graha Dosha. And in the sun period, which was in July 2021, we had major riots and leadership debacle happening in South Africa. Yeah. And the Mercury being debilitated, not having JyotiṣaVedāṅga or cancellation of durability, really showed that. And also being not well placed in the Navamsha, really showed that oppositional and entire malls were stripped bare. People's livelihoods were basically stolen in broad daylight, and people were killing each other in the residence suburbia. So it was not nice at all with the sixth lord in the Lagna. But going into the second half of the year, and the sun being energy as the Aditya also in that sign, we also had issues ongoing with the energy generation in the country, and the national electrical grid having multiple issues that are ongoing, continues and will continue into the next year. But the Kala Sarpa Yoga being broken by the Venus from the second house to the third house is really showing that government has been trying to improve the situation there. And in the Venus Dasha, which was middle of the year, May into June, there was people talking about economic recovery is better than expected, etc. Now the Saturn and Mercury situation, that is going to be a problem. Right now you have the Jupiter Dasha that is the country is running, and that's the ruler of the ascendant in the 12th house in Aquarius, and the ruler of the country has gone into the 12th house. He's been in hospital, he's been under care, he's had COVID. So that is a direct implication of what has happened. And that will continue now. We've also had a priest in the country that has died, a national figure. Recently, we had Desmond Tutu pass away in this time as well. And so we, Saturn then taking over the time into February, into the end of February, being the 11th Lord, 12th Lord in the 11th house, is going to show some initial instability economically, but there will still be, because it's in its own sign, and Venus is doing these, Venus is in the second house, there's going to be the private sector is saving basically the economy a lot in South Africa, and maybe in other parts of the world as well. The Mercury period, just before the chart of next year takes effect, that is where we're going to see the real instabilities, especially in the education sector, Mercury being the 4th house ruler of the chart, as well as in the broader business sector. And so we're going to see that maybe that is when the support from the private sector and business interests is not going to be able to accommodate volatility in the markets that may be coming through. So then going into 2022, I'm just trying to mention like major points. The ruler of the day is Venus. And so Venus becomes the ruler of the year for the material world. And again, the very important Venus was trying to break the Kala Sarpa. And so Jupiter being the 11th house with Venus as the natural, Badaka Sthana for Aries Lagna, that is Shubha Badak, it is making it Shubha. The Jupiter is the problem, there being the 12th house ruler, 11th house. So we are familiar in South Africa with the law and the courts not really supporting doing what they need to be doing all the time. So I think that's going to happen, and maybe some policy in terms of the treasury, in terms of trying to contain core inflation, is not going to be up to standard. But Venus is going to, being in the exchange with the Rahu, and Venus being the 7th house ruler, is probably going to show that they're going to really try to push foreign investment opportunities to come and help out economically with the situation. And if you see in terms of the stability of the leadership, because now Mars rules the 1st house, it is in the 10th house. In Digbala, it is exalted, indicating some Vishnu energy, and it is also with Saturn, who is in our own sign. So there are some initial problems that we can expect there in leadership, in terms of the leadership group being in the 10th house. Saturn being the 11th house ruler in the 10th house is going to show that the current leadership is going to have problem from their elders in their party. And we can see that possibly turning up. We can see the initial movements of that happening now. Saturn, Mars, and Rahu are very strongly connected both in the D1 chart as well as in the Navamsha, with Mars in the Navamsha Lagna, with Rahu Drishti, as well as Rahu Shani Parivartana as well, bringing that together. So the Mars is going to be, the leadership is going to have to take some very strong actions. I think in the second half of the year, according to the Vimshotri, from Mars Dasha onwards, to really strengthen their position amongst their party, or else risk the sort of politicking and scheming of Rahu, undermining that October to December 2022. And we do have an elective party election happening at the end of 2022, which I think will fall under that. So it all depends on how strong the leadership plays its hand in the Mars period. That's all I'm going to say about South Africa.
Yeah. It's interesting. There's also a Graha Malika yoga in the Navamsh. Very, very
Jupiter,
strong Graha Malika. And only Jupiter is sort of, outside the, yeah, that's really interesting. So, so this is quite similar to UK.
It is, but I think I haven't interpreted the Yama Yoga as detrimentally, because Saturn being its own sign and Mars as the ruler of the ascendant, Siddha Yoga in the 10th house. I've interpreted that as, especially since Mars is in the Navamsha Lagna, I've interpreted that as the leader having to really defend his ground, and that is the Capricorn energy coming through, is that the old guard is basically showing their hand, and he has to really show strength to keep his spot there at the top.
Yes, I agree that for the UK. I think Boris Johnson, well, he's struggling now. He's just lost a by-election.
Yeah.
Quite badly. I say he's lost an election, he'd lose his own seat. Never mind lose the election, he'd actually be kicked out of Parliament completely. So I think he's going to. I won't be surprised if if Johnson, if there's a change in leadership in 2022.
Especially, I think as the conservative policy is indicated by the Sun being a very establishment planet, and the Sun being MKS in the UK chart as well doesn't bode well for the Conservative Party.
Yeah, absolutely. But I agree with this 28th of September onwards, when it goes into the Mars period, there will be, I think, pretty much, it's going to be a little bit violent too. There is a possibility of sort of like uprising and like change of guard for sure,
The change of leadership, hopefully not the leader himself. Mars is the 8th lord in the 10th house. So the change of leadership is part of the maybe necessary movement forward, but we are hoping that it doesn't become violent again.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think also the women, because it is Venus, the Dharakaraka, because Saturn is anyway on its own, in its own house, Swakshetra, and in Capricorn, and it's not going to give its results. So it'll be only given by the exaltation Lord, which is Venus.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So then we come back to Venus, which feels completely blighted. And the fact is that it is in Badhakstan. So we come back to the fact, okay, it is in exchange with Rahu, but then Rahu is Atmakaraka, it's not going to shift easily, is it?
Yeah, as an Atmakaraka is not going to shift easily, but as everything else, perhaps. So Venus is coming out of the Papakartari that is in there, and leaving Jupiter to fend for himself. And so, we'll see. But a very strong link between the 2nd house and the 11th house can be good from a wealth generation or wealth stability point of view. So, which is why I was saying the National Treasury is going to be making some initially questionable decisions, and the Jupiter being the 12th lord may be driving inflation out of hand. So it's just something that they're going to need to take external advice.
Well, it's predicted that the inflation in the UK will hit 6%.
That's even, yes, absolutely. I think the inflation will go through the roof. And I think we are heading for a financial crisis. I mean, Jupiter, even if it does go into Pisces, which it will later, as we will see. But the trouble is, it is in an absolute Papkartari, because of Rahu moving into this axis and Saturn moving into Aquarius on the 3rd of May. So it's basically Jupiter is completely hemmed in. You know, okay, it is a benefic in Pisces, it is amazing, but end of the day, it is, you know, it's caught between two thugs. It's not going to work that easily. You know, it doesn't have the movement. And God, and we don't even want to see when Jupiter meets Rahu next year in April 2023. That's when all hell will break loose, because the beneficence of Jupiter in Pisces is at least contained with Jupiter being in Pisces.
Yeah, the Jupiter in Pisces beneficence is very much dependent on the community being very strong, because the exaltation ruler moon is giving the results. So if a community or country is very divisive or divided on anything, and there's no sense of strong, the moon energy is not strong, then the Jupiter beneficence in Pisces is not going to do much.
Absolutely. And I think the hell will, I mean, is it World War II, if I'm not mistaken, when a similar thing got triggered? You know, there was a pandemic, Spanish flu or something, and then years down the line, there was a financial crisis and the World War II happened. But similar thing, Rahu was in Aries, Jupiter entered Aries, and all hell broke loose. You know, so I think 2023 is significant for, anyway, that's how I feel. It's not going to be very easy, that Aries sign, you know.
If we look at the UK chart of 1945, then that Saturn Mars is in the 6th house from the Leo Lagna, which you know, I don't think is particularly auspicious. 6th house relates to civil war, amongst other things. So, although I'm not imagining, I don't fundamentally believe cannons are going to be fired across fields or anything, but nevertheless, it seems to be another indication of a sort of.
Saturn and Mars in the 6th house is fine as long as you've got an enemy to use it against.
Yeah, well, always the enemy.
The military-industrial complex will be hungry.
Yeah. So, okay. So, Gordon, let's move to you, and then we come back to New Delhi, and we come back to...
yeah, sure.
Yeah. So, okay, Gordon, you're going to be introducing us for the very first time, the Ashadha charts.
Yes, it's not used a lot, this, but I just wanted to show now what I've done to show how to kind of demonstrate how it's relevant is to go back to 2019, before the pandemic started.
Yeah.
This was the chart for the Ashadha Shukla. So that's, I mean, for Western astrologers, Ashadha Shukla is new moon in Cancer.
Right.
But this, in Vedic astrology, this is the new moon here is in Gemini. So it's on the Gemini-Sagittarius axis. And this was also the chart of the eclipse, the solar eclipse. And you can see that Saturn and Ketu are almost exactly on top of each other.
Yeah.
And in one of the designations of Ketu-Saturn conjunction, it's called a Turagadi yoga.
Yeah.
Which basically means something is going to break out and go rapidly, because Tura is referring to a horse, or the power, the speed of the horse.
Yeah.
So, and you can see that Saturn is the indicator of the disease, and so when the disease got going, it was very quick around the world. So you can see that this is an accurate thing, but the thing also is what is this indicates is also the start of what's called the Dakshinayana period, which is so the Vedic astrology divides the year into two halves, Dakshinayana and Uttarayana. And Dakshinayana is more to do with the mundane or the material, whereas Dakshinayana, which starts in January, is more to do with the spiritual side of things. So you can use this Ashadha Shukla chart to look at what's happening in the world in a mundane sense. So
So
That's-
you mean the January one is the Uttarayana, right? So the Ashadha chart is based on the Dakshinayana, the southern
yes, that's
coast.
right. Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
the southern
Yeah.
coast. Yeah.
Yeah, the southern course.
Yeah.
So do you want to move down one?
Yeah. Okay. So is that the same?
So this is the 2021 one, which is still going now.
Yeah.
But you can see that the Rahu Ketu axis indicating the disease is right on the ascendant.
Yeah, absolute. Okay, so
Yeah.
let's shall we move to the next one?
Move to the next one. Yeah,
yeah.
Sure.
Here we go. So that is 2022.
Yeah, this is 2022. So there's a lot of fighting against quite efficient in some ways, fighting against this disease and vaccination. But you've got, nevertheless, you have a difficult situation in the 12th house, which also refers to, this is drawn for London, this chart, so the 29 degrees relates to London. So we've got difficult situation with people abroad and also neighbours with the moon and the sun in the second. So there is a kind of Papakatari yoga going on here.
Yeah.
But Jupiter is in the 11th in Pisces, so which is a very good indication. Saturn in the 10th in Aquarius is not a bad indication. And I think what you're going to find, contrary to what, so I disagree slightly with what's been said, I think you're going to find that as the pandemic subsides, the economy is going to be pushed forward very, very hard. And so there is going to be, whether it's going to be very good developments or not, I think it will develop very quickly over the next few years. There will be economic difficulties, but not for a few years yet.
Mm-hmm.
So are you saying, Gordon, that when Jupiter moves and conjoins Rahu, and which is in May 2023, and there is Sun as well, albeit exalted, but we are talking of a Sun, I think Mercury, and at some point Mars is also aspecting it. Sun, Rahu, and Jupiter conjunction in Aries. Do you really think that it'll bode well for the world?
I think it bodes well for the economy, not necessarily very good direction, but expansion. Yeah. And also, I think it's also indicating that the pandemic is being overcome as well when Jupiter crosses Rahu.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because Jupiter, when the pandemic started, Jupiter was with Rahu.
Yes.
Was with Ketu, I mean.
Ketu,
yeah.
That's what I guess was triggered it, Mars, Saturn, and Jupiter with Ketu. So
yes, absolutely, yeah.
Indeed. But the thing is, I just think that we have to get over this hiccup of Jupiter conjoining Rahu in Aries. Even though I mean, Jupiter will just simply go on a war path with Rahu.
Yeah, it's in terms of the economy, the indicators basically show that something needs to collapse for something new to be created, and
absolutely,
the creation energy that happens with Jupiter and Pisces.
Yes, if you take the Rahu cycle, 18.6 years, and you move it forward from 2007-8. It comes to 2025-26. So I think that's when you're going to get this realignment, or this that's Theo speaking about.
Well, the plan is to realign things by 2025 anyhow. From what's coming out. I mean, I have no doubt that certainly in this country, it's a very entrepreneurial country if it's let loose, and it can be very. And we've always been a trading nation. So I mean, it's given natural forces, the economy would always be very successful in this country because it's just that type of country. It all depends whether people will allow this. But I've no doubt that ultimately the economy will be fairly strong because that's just the nature of the country, whether it's small business or bigger business. I always take Venus, I think, to represent smaller business, and that looks quite positive, being Venus
Yes.
the ascendant there, which, it's squeezed either side again with Mars on Rahu on one side and Sun on the other. So, yes, I think difficulties, but I mean, ultimately, I would imagine this country always would be successful economically, given a fair wind. It just depends if people want to. There's a lot of Rajas in that first house.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
With Mercury there.
I think also you should notice that because of what this shows as the new moon chart, you should follow the new moon charts around the chart, around the horoscopic chart as you go around the year, because they're each quite significant.
Okay, but there's also Mercury Moon Parivartana exchange, so
Yeah.
which is kind of all right,
Yes, it's very helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, that is very helpful. It will bring some positive aspects to it, but I don't know. I just still feel that financially we have a hiccup before things begin to look up.
Jordan, would you continue? That Mars Rahu, of course, is the
Mars Rahu in the 12th. Yes, I mean there's something quite disruptive is going to be going on overseas. Let's put it that way.
And Saturn is also having a drishti.
And Saturn has drishti on it. Yeah.
Rashi and Graha drishti, both
Absolutely,
drishtis.
yes.
My God, there is something. It's almost like. I just think that it's going to be like a mass exodus of people trying to get out of the UK, because it's the 12th house, and maybe they will just shut all the borders, because when the Omicron came out, UK was probably the first country to say nobody from South Africa can come in, and you think like, hang on a minute, but it's no better than a common cold. And I did hear someone saying that, there was people are going to the hospital in America.
But if everybody goes off work with a common cold, it's a problem.
Exactly. It's like, come on,
I would maybe say that this Mars is the seventh lord in the 12th, contributing to this drama, the heaviness in the 12th house, being emphasized also with the Saturn. On the one hand, you have the Srimanta Yoga and the Lagna with Mercury and the Moon supporting that, going back to the second house. You have that on the one hand for the country trying to stand up on its own feet economically. But then you have the external factors, the outside influences of the seventh lord in the 12th house. And maybe that is issues with the European Union and other trade partners that are going to really put a spanner in the works there.
There will always be trouble with the European Union. They are not our friends. I mean, Jupiter's providing our 11th house arguments.
Well, I think Romania is just... the European Union has got its troubles. Romania has just refused to kowtow to the European Union rules, as well as Poland.
That's good. But there's also this yoga, the Pasha yoga, sort of 5 planets in 5 different houses. So it's kind of like a imprisonment, sort of being hemmed in and stuck, really.
I would sort of interpret that maybe as, Saturn having drishti on both Rahu, Mars, as well as the 7th house of business, is basically saying, hey, UK, yes, but you're tied to these people still somehow. And you still have there's still a lot of work to be done there, in figuring it out, the way forward.
Yeah. I mean, it is a very strong chart. Practically every planet, barring the sun, is in its own tattva level.
Yes, and the sun's sort of semi-exalted in Gemini anyway.
Absolutely. So it's kind of like, whoa, hang on a minute. What's left here? Okay, there's Rahu, who's probably the mischief maker with the Shani Drishti, So it's basically Rahu's, foreign and boundaries and, all of that that's because that is going to be the biggest mischief maker here, Rahu.
If leadership can keep their Venus issues contained, then it will strengthen the Lagna here a lot for the UK.
No, no hope with Boris, then, I'm afraid. Forlorn hope there. I mean, it's
Yeah, I'm not going to hold my breath.
But in a way, I think, you know, I don't know who the Atmakaraka is in this chart, Gordon, or who's the Amatyakaraka. Is it Rahu? Is the Atma? No, can't be Rahu.
No, it's Mercury is out.
Mercury, yeah. So, so basically, the focus is going to be big on resources and finances and figuring out.
Yeah, but the chart also doesn't kick in until the end of June.
Mm.
Yeah. And Rahu is, I'm assuming, the Dharakaraka, which is interesting because it's the 12th lord, the 10th lord in the 12th.
Saturn is the Dharakaraka.
Okay, so, okay, Saturn, okay, it's close. Oh, I see, it's 25. Okay. So yeah, so the 10th lord in the 12th is quite all right in terms of, you know, never ending work. So
yeah, but it's tied to matters outside of their control. So
so you'll have to go beyond the boundaries. So that's why I think it's going to be sort of like people getting so fed up that, hey, let's look to outside of the UK for our, not just our employment, but, you know, huge rise in like digital nomads, you know, just have your laptop and just work anywhere. I think we will see more of that there.
Interesting. Right.
But then we have taxation problems. How do you tax these people who've kind of disappeared in Southeast Asia or, you know, South America? How do you figure out where they are, you know, what work they're doing? And well, we know what work they'll be doing, but you know, how do you manage their income and taxes and stuff like that? So that is interesting. Anyway, let's what are we doing? Paul, do you have anything to add, or shall we go back to the India chart with Nathan?
The one thing I was going to add is we have this the Chaitra Shukla for China is I think it's got a Cancer. Like
well, Rod can help us there. Rod, I'm sorry. I hope you know.
Sonal,
yes.
Sonal,
yes.
Just before Rod comes in,
yes.
I've just got a list in front of me. That's all.
Okay,
it's the whole area: Indonesia, Philippines, Myanmar, China, and Taiwan. That's all Cancer Lagna.
Whoa, amazing. We will be dealing with that because you know, I think there's going to be trouble brewing in that area.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, because
I think there will be economic, I think that the UK will be dragged in to the conflict with China and Taiwan. I mean, even military, but, you know, because we have been sending aircraft carriers and things to Taiwan, for example, and we're flying Russian feathers along the way. So,
absolutely.
Although I'm not expecting British military to be active, I think they will be bobbing about on the waves. But I think more significantly, the conflict might be economic. You know, I won't be at all surprised if there's economic sanctions against China, for example.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That Yama Yoga is in the 7th house from, you know, the Cancer Lagna for China on that part of the world, and Mars represents islands in any case. So, you know, I see it's been dragged into that in some capacity.
Plus they have the eclipse. If they are all Cancer Lagnas, they will have the eclipse on the 16th, the lunar, not so much the lunar, but definitely the solar eclipse on the 30th of April, affecting their 10th house and 4th house. So it's like their home internal, you know, there'll be an internal unrest anyways going on in the 4th across 4th and 10th houses, which is, so yeah, I do think there's a lot of trouble brewing, but we will come back with Rod on that one. We will tackle the Taiwan-China issue when we move to with Rod. But meanwhile, let's get the. Did you have any other points, Gordon?
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah. Okay, so we come back for India. Okay, let me just get we dealt with no, we haven't dealt with USA, have we? No.
Yeah, go
Okay.
to the US.
Yeah, let's do the USA and India both together, and feel free to join. But over to you, Nathan. Come on.
Okay.
Let's do that.
I've never looked at the snake countries in one go, but okay,
Yeah.
so right. So with the USA, this is very interesting what 2022 is becoming. But again, okay, the Kala Sarpa, all those comments were made.
Yeah.
And here the day lord is the sun, and the sun is in the 5th house. But I'm interested in seeing what is happening to this Kala Sarpa, the head of the snake, because we have this Mars Rahu again, but this time it is Mars that is MK, so dying in the 7th house, and it is the Lagna Lord. So that gives me an indication that, because of the Parivartana, or the exchange with the 6th house, Venus, that shows me that there's some war that is ending. And so at the end of the moon period and going into the Mars period in the middle of 2021, that is when the whole, I think, drama happened with the leaving Afghanistan and that whole, situation. I think it was then, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, in the Moon-Mars period. So Moon being the Badakesha, etc., and the Lord of the 7th. So facilitated all those things. And Moon is not a good planet for Biden, being in his 6th house. His Badakesha in the 6th house, having those mental issues, so brain issues. So that was sort of the major thing I saw there. This Jupiter period is actually quite good for them, being the 5th Lord in the 4th house that they're going to right now. And then I just wanted to also say that this will continue to the Saturn period, because Saturn is also the 4th Lord. So there's more focus on the domestic policy, the domestic financial policy, especially because Jupiter also being the 2nd Lord and the 5th Lord in the 4th house, ruled by Saturn. And I think that they're going to basically have a period of mini isolationism for the rest of, at least until end of February, where they're just trying to focus on how can we get back to work, get the economy going, and maybe some stimulus happening with the Jupiter as the 5th house ruler. There's a lot that they're trying to tie up there, but that Mars-Venus exchange was necessary for them to get out of this, actually by leaving, yes, people died and it didn't happen in a nice way, because that's the nature of Kala Sarpa. But the Venus broke that Kala Sarpa, and I think Venus rules, so diplomacy still continues, but it is what it is. But they needed to do that in order to get out of the Kala Sarpa, and so that the Jupiter in the 4th house can start working, which is now, I think, going through. So Moon is not so nice in this chart, actually. So that's why the Moon period, that's when everything went sort of heads over. But okay, that's all I wanted to say.
So let's move to the next.
2022 with the USA. Now, this is where things get very interesting. Jupiter is not only the day ruler, which means the year ruler for the material world. It is also the Lagna Lord in the chart, showing the leader of the country. And the Lagna is under the Turagadi Papa Kartiri Yoga of Saturn, Mars, and Ketu. Jupiter itself is also in Marana Karakasthana in the 3rd house. And the Karaka of the 3rd house, Mars, is in the 2nd, showing Rudra Yoga. So here I'm really concerned about the leader in terms of their health and their longevity. This is the main issue in this chart, because the result of this MKS guru is going to the Yama Yoga in the 2nd house, which will also have repercussions on the economy. Now, again, we can say that the Venus-Rahu exchange may be trying to help, but it's not a helpful exchange in this chart as it was previously, because it's an exchange between the 3rd house and the 6th house, which is making the illness of the leader even more extreme. So, and the enemies and challenges that they're facing, etc. So this was the main issue that I had. So I would suspect these things to be triggered in the Venus period in June, and really the Jupiter-Rahu periods towards the end of the year are going to be quite tough. But the timing, would also, when we talk about the life of someone, you really have to look at their own birth chart to confirm those timings. But I think that the leader, the life of the leader, is really coming into question here. If I look at another period that I think is going to be important is the Moon Dasha, again focusing on domestic matters, very strongly trying to move forward. The Neecha Mercury without JyotiṣaVedāṅga is again not really helpful and not helpful. So I don't think the economy is going to be able to accommodate a lot of volatility. There needs to be some kind of stability. The Saturn Drishti on that Mercury wants there to be some kind of conservative economic policy being applied throughout the year. But otherwise, I see the Mars-Saturn in the second house of the chart. Mars being the fifth house ruler, exalted in the second, and Saturn having Drishti on the 11th and the fifth house of the chart, as Mars trying its best to take economic leadership and bring some stability there. Those are the main 2 points I wanted to make about the US. But the real issue here is the Jupiter.
See, the trouble is the sun is in 0 Digbal. It's in the 4th house.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
It's a problem. That's for starters a problem, especially when Jupiter moves into Pisces and Saturn moves into Aquarius. Then there will be definitely a Papkartari from May onwards. So I think there is going to be an issue with that, but then it also has the transit of Jupiter with Mercury, a debilitated Mercury, just may mean that the people may move more and more towards very holistic solutions to sort their lives out, much more sort of in keeping with, more spiritual, more sort of gentler solutions rather than, let's go straight to the hospital for whatever, That's
the Mercury is Nietzsche, but also in chaos. And it's there with the moon. So, and the moon is going to try the best to help, but it is another cash. So I don't think in terms of domestic policy that they really have a handle on the people affairs. And I think really in the Mars period, they might have some domestic disharmony that can disrupt and throw off things, as they usually do, every other year they have some.
But that is around this time in September, around this Mars period, when Saturn retrogrades back from Aquarius, it comes back into the second house of finances and resources. That's number one. And number two is that Rahu is Atmakaraka. It's the head of the country, and it is in the 6th. It is in a problematic area, with 0 degrees. It's a problem. It's the Sankranti is sort of an issue. So I think Rahu is a huge problem. So I think the leader of the country will be in some sort of trouble, no matter how much they try to cover up,
Yeah, there's only so much,
And maybe Jupiter moving into Pisces will be able to contain it, the cover up. I don't know.
I don't think so with this kind of moon. The moon is not hiding in this chart at all.
No, not at all. But the sun is also is not helping, because it is in the the 4th house in 0 Digbal. So so the sun is also the leader of the country. So that is also another problem. And the sun is resources. So that also is in trouble.
The sun being in Dikshunya in the 4th house also just shows that the leader or the leadership is not, for whatever reason, making questionable decisions or not clear choices. And that would make sense if the health of the leader is also, from a mental point of view, suffering. So I think that sort of goes together.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
But we'll see.
yeah, oh my God, this is, it's, in some
I
ways, I
remember
think
in
it looks,
the Western astrology, the stuff for him also doesn't look so great.
but
yeah.
I think in some ways, this chart is much more problematic compared to the UK Chaitra for
Yes,
2022.
definitely. Because of the MKS of the Jupiter, it just really drives the peg into the ground.
Absolutely.
Yeah. To use a nice phrase.
And there is no there's no let up. There's no.
Yeah, no, Rahu is the lord of that. The one lord Rahu who's gone there he's taking care of the Venus. So there's no, Venus is trying to pump that Jupiter with some, juice. And it's because it's, exaltation sign ruler, wants to help Jupiter a lot.
Absolutely.
The Rahu in this case from the 6th house is taking the Venus out. And then the Saturn, who's the other ruler of the Jupiter, is with the Karaka of the 3rd house, who's got nothing holding it back in the 2nd.
That's really difficult. Anyone wants to add anything? So,
well, K2 in the 12th but generally indicates that you don't want to have any relationships with anybody. So America's going to be caught up with its own troubles, basically.
Yeah, the internal problems. And I think the internal problems of America are huge. And is it not, Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, but the whole country, well, I'm not going to say that it's only singling out America, but it is to do with the entire Western population as well, Europe and UK. They are there's like a big divide. There's the jabbed and the unjabbed, and that is really going to drive the vaccine passports is one of the biggest discriminating methods ever. And I think this is what they're going to see. America is definitely going to see a big revolt in that. The 4th house, the conflicted 4th house. So Sagittarius Lagna as well as Pisces Lagna are going to feel the brunt of that whole Jupiter in the Papkartari from May onwards till September at least. They're going to feel that. And I think that's when it will really drive home. And here it is clear as a bell, Pisces and both Pisces is a 4th house and it's Sagittarius Lagna. So they are going to, I think there's going to be a big revolt and a big uprising going forward, at least in the US for sure.
Yeah, in this country, of course, everybody's unjabbed. No matter how many you get, you're still unjabbed.
They are or they're not.
Yeah, you can never have enough jabs, according to Boris. Even if you've had a booster, you're still unjabbed, according to what he's saying.
Yeah, I think the unemployment things in the US, being the 4th house, is really going to, the 4th house being so earth element wise deprived, is really going to pose a problem.
Yeah. I mean, a Marana Mercury on top of that is debilitated. There's no let up. It's only moon at Digbal, but it's, that's also not quite helping because it'll eventually be in a Papkartari. So hopefully Jupiter will come along in Pisces and say, let's ease things down a little bit. But even he's kind of caught up, so there's no respite. Let's move forward. I don't want to see this. Anyway, then we come to India.
India. I just changed my notes here. Right, India. So ending 2021, the main thing here is, again, this Mercury moon in the 10th house, in the 11th house, sorry. It's a very financial driven Mercury as the 2nd lord and 5th lord. And the moon here in the 11th house being the one of the rulers of the ascendant, is showing a focus on the domestic financial situation very strongly, financial liquidity, and what factors are really affecting the economy, and volatility. That is a very volatile 11th house situation, but it shows that the leadership, part of the leadership, is very much concerned on those financial domestic matters, as we've seen in various shades and degrees in all these charts. And Saturn, being the 9th lord in the 9th house and the 10th lord in the 9th house, I think for Taurus Lagna is going to really help a lot in trying to bring some stability there. Again, looking at that 11th house from the 9th. And I know it's Badak, and people say it's Badakesha and the Badak, but you need outside help sometimes. And I think that's what India is going to try to do. Rahu and Shani are actually kind of good for them for this chart. But the Mars Venus, so the Saturn period will bring some economic stability factors, or drive, will push it through Saturn means of lack that will show up. They'll be driven to take some innovative routes there in financially shoring up things in the country. And I think they have leadership that is capable to do that. I think the leader has a strong Saturn, if I remember. But the problem that this year has had was this Mars-Venus exchange here now from the 12th house to the Lagna. So showing that maybe some military spending went a bit out of hand at some point, but that's by the by, but that was there's an ongoing spending that is happening with India that I can see. The military spending, building up the military, the 12th lord in the Lagna, an exchange with the Lagna lord, all that is happening or happened in the year. But you can see that the 10th lord in the Lagna, Rahu, is really showing the world, in terms of India, traveling around. Modi's been going around, making friends, and that Rahu has helped them to do that.
Mm-hmm. But May was particularly bad for India with all the deaths of COVID and stuff like that. And I think wasn't
it April? I think it was April.
Yeah, April, and then it kind of slowed down in by middle of May. So, but yes, you're right. So if you see April, I mean, that really Ketu Venus, that really felt pretty frightening for some time. So I guess that is what the Mars coming into the 12th perhaps, but Mars is Atmakaraka, so it can't really move about like that. But, Lagna Lord in the 12th house, quite a bit of losses there. And in the Navamsha also, it's not, Venus in Aries is not exactly the greatest of placements.
Yeah, the Navamsha Kendra, I don't have any grahas in there. It's not really very strongly driven, sort of Navamsha from that point of view.
Yeah.
But Jupiter's trying to help, you can see, but Chandala in the trines.
And the Saturn Rahu there, in Gemini, that's a problem.
Yeah, so basically what happened in April was that Ketu took over from the Mars, and so the whole drama happened.
Absolutely. So anyway,
let's move along. In 2022, again, now here the Venus is the Lord of the year and Lord of the day.
Yeah.
And again, it's the same chart we've been seeing, so it's nothing new from the Kala Sakra point of view. It's just the placement of the Lagna changes everything here because Gemini has Venus dosha. And it's an exchange from the 9th house to the 12th house. So here, what I wanted to focus on, Venus as the 12th lord and Jupiter as the 10th lord of the chart, being placed in the 9th house, and Venus being a dosha for Gemini, maybe shows that maybe they're overstretching now in terms of our friends. Maybe not everybody is a friend, or maybe friends who promise things are not able to deliver, because the lord of that is the Rahu in the 12th, who's always trying to backstab the Lagna here. So I think that there will be some also important cabinet changes middle of the year, June to August, in the Venus sort of period, because Modi is known for not being afraid to change cabinet when he needs to. And maybe also some stimulus for travel. The Venus industries, travel, tourism can also be forthcoming. I'm taking a more positive look at the 9th house, 12th house connection in terms of trying to open up the tourism economy. But there are some issues there, like I've said before. Rahu, I said, is also the 10th Lord in the 12th, the 5th Lord in the 12th. So in terms of India's foreign policy and foreign engagements, that might be better served rather than focusing so much on their domestic. So 2021 for me was more about the domestic policies, and 2022 is more about reaching out and making those connections work better as the year goes on. Because Saturn and Venus are basically okay in this chart.
Yeah, and Jupiter has a beautiful graha drishti on the lagna.
Oh, yes.
So there's a lot of protection, a lot of positive stuff there. So I think overall it's not so bad, but its concern will be about revival of economy big time. Only because it's like the 8th house is Saturn and Mars, so there's like a big churning of resources and stuff happening. I think the
and
banking
as far as I know, Modi doesn't have a Venus problem. I mean, he doesn't have like a Venus scandal like Boris going on. So that gave me some sense to say the Graha dosha of the Mercury Lagna here won't be so bad. But it just means that he needs to be sort of more careful with the 9th house in terms of maybe policy may be against him. He needs to follow the law and things like that, and not just.
But I think that will come out in terms of like women of the country, and also I think there was some kind of just recently in India, the Christian communities, some of them were attacked for celebrating Christmas, and you think like, but what's the problem? Some of the Hindu fundamentalists, and that's not right.
That's not right.
You have, I don't know. I think a country which has been always traditionally been so tolerant cannot afford to be not tolerant.
Definitely.
So
especially in a chart where Jupiter is the Badakesh in the 9th, you really can't let the religious things get out of hand.
Absolutely. So I think some kind of religious or sort of spiritual religioso sort of sentiments may be triggered that may give a bit of a problem.
Modi should take a more pragmatic, balanced approach with that.
Yeah. But bear in mind that Saturn is in Aquarius, will come here from May onwards till September. So so he will feel the pressure on, because he is Venus. Oh, sorry, he is Jupiter, isn't he? Who's Atmakaraka? Rahu. So, but it's in an exchange with Venus. So
yeah, so basically with the Atmakaraka in the 12th, ruling the 10th, he needs to make sure that the danger is that, yes, you're going to continue making good friends abroad and all that, but maybe not as a form of escapism from domestic matters. So he needs to keep an eye on who's handling those affairs when he's not there.
Yeah, absolutely. But the sun is in great Digbal, and so that's positive. And just by Mercury being in the 10th house, I think it's kind of minimize the problems with its debility. So.
I think just referring to the Christian, I won't be surprised if there is more conflict. So Saturn can represent Orthodox Christianity. It is in that 8th house and afflicted. So I won't be surprised if there is more. That's the 9th Lord. I won't be surprised if the Christian community doesn't come under some
attack or something.
Attack
I'm
or
with you on.
It might be a bad year for that specific community.
Yeah, especially because I think that Jupiter is a Badhakesh, and Saturn is going to be on it. It lords the 8th house, so there will be sort of conflictual situations there, no doubt about that. So yeah, so I think, yeah, we can easily see that. So okay, so let's move to this is the North Indian for anyone who wants to have a look. So the same chart. Okay, so Gordon, your anything you want to add in any of the other charts?
No, just a general comment.
Yeah, go on.
Welcome to the decade of the 20s, so to speak.
I remember it well.
They've not only got this year with the Shula Yoga, there's 5 years in the 20s with Shula Yogas.
Right.
Whoa. That's tough.
That's tough, yeah.
That is tough. I see, that is also another reasons I do not feel that economically we will be there as we were a few years before, or, you know, I think we'll take a
there's
while.
certainly a big economic revision coming, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And an absolute churning on from that front, you know. I think the world is a changed place this decade.
Yeah.
So completely. So anyway, so this is a UK Tithi Pravesh 2022. Gordon, anything you want to add on this?
Oh, well, there's some positive stuff here. Admittedly, I'm taking a risk. I'm using a Tithi Pravesh chart from a progress chart.
Yeah.
But the positions of the planets are correct. So maybe, but this is a powerful Adhi Yoga, the 6th, 7th, and 8th from the moon.
Yeah.
But, and Mars Ketu in the 5th, we'll be taking quite strong, definite actions. But the 5th house, you don't really want this sort of energy in the 5th house generally.
No, that's heavy duty.
We're not going to be, you want rather something like Venus in the 5th. So the 5th house is a bit tough. 5th house, you really would not like a lot of malefic energy in the 5th house, even though it's Scorpio, and so it's going to be of benefit. Very logical things will be done. 5th house, Mars in the 5th, your intelligence is directed by Mars, very logically. But Ketu also, you can intuit things.
Yeah.
But the Adhi Yoga does contain malefics, so Saturn and Sun, but nevertheless there are 3 strong benefits there. So I think in 2022 we've got some positive things to look forward to in the UK.
But I also think, looking at this chart, that the Mars is going to be highly manipulative. That Mars Ketu is going to be very, very manipulative.
Could be, yeah.
Only because it is aspecting with Rahu, and there are problems there. You know, there's definitely issues there in the 5th house. 2 malefics in the 5th is a problem.
Yes,
if there was nothing,
it's about politics, the 5th house, one of the things,
and entertainment, and absolutely. Yes. So I think, and because it rules the 10th house, Mars, I think there is going to be a lot of manipulation and behind the scenes kind of scenario going on.
Large yoga, and it's Mars is aspecting Jupiter, which suggests, to my way.
There is the Graha Malika Yoga. This is planets in 4 signs, is led by Jupiter, so that's very promising as well.
That's a good point.
Yeah. But it does end there, though. You know, in the 8th house. That's the I'm not sure if that is a good thing, though. It bodes very well, at least initially, because 5th house is auspicious, all said and done. But the trouble begins as we go forward till the 8th house, and that's when it really.
I think it's quite a speculative kind of chart financially.
Yes. Well, it's a good opportunity to get people interested in Jyotish.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, let's move further. I just want to do a little thing on some of the personal stuff, what will get us affected,
Okay.
especially with the Pap Kartari. Just little stuff. You can get the slides anyway. I will put them up, but the ascendant Lagna, the Saturn's transit is going to be beneficial if it is first, third, fourth, and so on and so forth. I don't want to delve too much, but these ones are going to be quite all right. Aries, Saturn, when it goes in Aquarius, it will affect Aries. They will feel the brunt of it. And similarly, with the moon in Taurus. So all that is all right. I don't want to delve too much into it, but one of the beneficial transits as far as moon signs go is Sagittarius moon, Virgo moon, Taurus moon, and Aries moon. So it's not so bad for them, but the super problematic and the classic Sade Sati, which we all know, is which is a Saturn sojourn over the moon in D1 as well as D9, especially if you have moon in Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces, and the rest of them, Leo, Cancer, Gemini, and Libra, are going to feel the brunt of it. So anyway, another last thing I want to do is on a personal level, if you have Arud, we will be having a workshop on Arud and what it means. It's one of the greatest point of manifestation. It is our Maya Shakti or Maya, what we manifest. And so the Arud, if you have it in certain, Saturn transiting beneficial transits. So if you have, let's say, Arud in the first house or rather in Sagittarius, then Saturn is going to be in Aquarius. So that's going to be quite beneficial for, Arud in Sagittarius. But if your Arud is in Leo, it's a problem. If it is in Cancer, it's a problem because Saturn is going to be 7th and 8th house respectively. And quadrants, it's a complete change. Completely, you'll have to kind of reinvent yourself. So if you have Arud in Scorpio or Taurus, then total sort of, re-looking into and a big life change awaits. So that's it really. And a special note for Pisces and Sagittarius Lagna, because of the Pap Kartari with Jupiter, it is going to be a problem. So please take care, drop me a line. There are some nice Vishnu mantras and stuff. So anyway, so we move to the Western astrology. Anybody else wants to add anything?
Well, we didn't see the world thing.
Okay, let's do the world thing quickly before I slip my mind. The world horoscopes, the last one before we, where is it? Here, Ujjain, India, the world era. Go on, Nathan.
Okay, so just really quickly, this is part of, I think Gordon was in the presentation I did end of 2020 on this research on the world era charts and in Vedic astrology. And the current one is here before you and is valid for these roughly 300 years. And we are at the end of the first 100 years, which is the first Brahma impulse. And we're entering into a period of now maintenance with the world that we've created. So, and so basically you can see here, you can download the article if you want to read it and always go read details. But when the Saturn Dasha began, in this chart, Saturn and Jupiter are in a war combination, and Saturn is winning. And so being in the Jupiter period from 86 to 2002, we had a boom in the world economies. The dot-com boom and all of that happened. And in 2002, when the Saturn Dasha began, Saturn is a Kandaka disease, and it's overcoming Jupiter in this chart. We actually had the first case of the coronavirus appearing at the end of 2002. I think it was November 2002. So Saturn there is showing his cards. And in the Saturn-Jupiter period specifically, where the Yuddha, where the overcoming of Jupiter is going to be really felt. That is where we had the coronavirus pandemic. And so since August 2001, we've moved into the Mercury period for the world. And so the financial world is now taking over and becoming a focus. And the coronavirus pandemic is going to be petering out. And that's what we expect to be happening in this Mercury period, especially in the first 2 years. But in the Mercury Ketu period, which is, if you look at Mercury in the Navamsha, it is with Ketu, it's stability. Mercury is in Pisces. Sonal, if you can just point to that there. Mercury is in Pisces, Navamsha. It's exalted in the D1 chart, but in the Navamsha, it is debilitated. And that is a Rajabhanga Yoga. So, and it is with Ketu also. So in the Mercury Ketu period, in 2024 to 2025, and I also show this in the article as well, in the global, how financial systems changed over the last 1,000 years. I did that in the article showing that with the astrology in this one chart. So here you can see Mercury Ketu, 2024, 2025, we have a financial system change. So it's not like a financial collapse that will happen in the Mercury period, because the debilitation of Mercury will show from now till 2024, as we've been talking about. But the Mercury Ketu period is going to show that a transition to a new form of global currency, just like in previous periods, we moved from gold coins to paper checks, moving to bill paper notes. The currency is changing, and with Ketu, we can only surmise it's going to be virtual currency, because that's what Ketu sort of indicates. The cryptocurrencies, the things you can't see, all those things coming together. So I think that we're moving towards something like that. But initially you'll need, as we've been saying, we need to have the collapse, the debilitation of this Mercury has to be shown, and it's being shown in all the charts we've been looking at for the years. And so that is in alignment with the this world era chart. And so we're going to go through that low, and then we're going to, in order to recover, the world leaders are going to have to accept that a new form of currency is going to be a part of the solution, and regulate it and standardize it going forward. And that will be in place by 2024, 2025.
Absolutely. And can I just quickly add, because this is very exciting, Mercury, Venus, because Venus is the Lagna Lord, and it is placed in the 12th house from the Navamsha Lagna. 12th house is death, definitive death in Navamsha Lagna, right? And so in the Venus Antardasha is when it will really crash and burn. Mercury and Venus Antardasha. So I think it will begin 2024 Mercury Ketu, and then I think 2025 when it will have to completely destroy itself and start the rebuilding process will begin.
Yeah, we know they're going to bring in that. That's the whole plan. I mean, there's no secret about this. The design is because of the economic system is untenable at the moment. So they're going to do away with the whole thing about this is to bring in digital passports and then digital currencies and do away with cash. I mean, you know, it's not that the technology or this idea is bad, it's the people behind it. You know, once they have that, then they'll have total control of everything.
Absolutely.
And the Bank of England, you know, this is not conspiracy. The Bank of England have already submitted papers to the UK government saying we also have a digital currency, and that way we can control what people spend and control people politically. I mean, this is another form of slavery. This isn't a good, you know, the people behind this are forcing it into being a very bad situation. I mean, this is totalitarianism. You will not be able to spend the things that you want on, and you will have to do as you're told. And initially, they will bring in this universal benefit, so that you will, you know, as AI takes over, then you know people will lose their jobs, so they're going to have to be funded by universal benefit income.
Yeah, but that's a disaster. The universal benefit.
This will be a disaster for humanity. I mean, people will make a fortune from it, the usual people, the central banks and everything, but this will be a disaster for the man on the street. The question is, will we be keeping cash?
Well, if you pay everybody a pension, they'll all retire. It's very straightforward.
But you
All
know,
rich people will just go to Mars. That's all.
Absolutely.
the government,
Space travel.
the government are going to control what you spend your money on.
I'll tell you what, all one has to do is buy stuff, anything space related, buy it. Okay. Any companies which is funding space, that's going to be your ticket out. In terms of you want to survive financially, buy space companies that are providing materials for space, from travel to everything.
You won't be allowed to spend on that unless the government gives you permission.
Well, that's true, but that is coming. It's clear as a bell here. It's like Mercury, Ketu, Mercury, and Mercury, Mars. In fact, I think there's going to be an outright war in Mercury, Mars. Look at this. In the Navamsh, Mercury, Mars is in the 4th house from the Navamsha Lagna. It's a disaster.
This has all been laid out already, right? Have you read the book?
Sorry?
Have you read the book from Klaus Schwab? He is one of those guys. Yeah, reset. He doesn't want national bank or private banks anymore. He wants just one national bank. So if every British citizen
currency
has just one account in the British, national bank, the national bank can control every economic transaction that you do. And so if this is for every country, then the next step is one general bank, one worldwide bank. So you can not only check every transaction, economical transaction, which would be good for, black and washed money. But on the other side, you have checked every financial activity you do, where you are, because you are always on your mobile phone, you pay on your mobile phone.
Absolutely.
So that you are traceable. This is, you will become human, transparent human, right?
Totally.
So I totally
it's
agree.
like, it's
this is
disaster.
the sanification of the world. I mean, it's going to be a complete disaster.
But it is already looking, even let's just go by this chart. This is Mercury, Mars, and we are at the end. It's like an all-out war. I mean, we just know simple stuff. Navamsha Lagna, 4th from Navamsha Lagna, if you have a malefic, or 12th from Navamsha Lagna, it's death. It is all going to be triggered. Mercury, Venus, go on till Mercury, Mars.
You can see it being set up now because Mercury is exalted in the D1 chart, and right now in the Mercury period. And what are all these Mercury businessmen, leaders doing, flying up into space? All of them. Every month there's another one that's taking a Ketu rocket and going up into the space. And so they're showing that they're going to be controlling a lot of things from up there, with the Mercury Ketu in Navamsha showing very strongly there. And I think it's just being set up now. And I think the collapse of the financial economy will be used as a reason to justify a lot of
that is the plan.
That is always been the plan.
That they're going to collapse the economy to bring in the digital currency for total control. I mean, it's no secret. I mean, this part of the UN Agenda 2030.
But as Tania said, we have to read that text reset by Schwab.
Yeah, can you just type that up in the chat so I can see the spelling?
It's ridiculous. Or it's like a thick book. Even I haven't read it, but I get snippets of it. And that's it. It's like clear as a bell. It's like on public domain. Why aren't people awake to just, hey, whatever he's written.
But I just want to say something. There has been one book in the past, and nobody would believe that the author of that book would exactly do what was in the book.
Exactly. Thank you, Tania. Exactly. What is wrong with people? I want to know. It's the book is obviously stating the obvious, and he's just following it.
But you're assuming that people read books.
Reset. It's reset.
You're assuming people read books nowadays. So.
You won't get me reading a book.
What is a book?
Kindle version, whatever version you can lay your hands on.
There's definitely no library behind that.
You need to convert the book into tweets, and then people will be able to understand.
Yeah, that's right too.
But anyway, it went in a very dark era for humanity. I mean,
absolutely. This decade is a write-off.
I mean, that's before we get onto the transhumanism thing, which is what the
it's a free PDF, so you can just download it.
Okay, can we quickly have a look at the Queen's chart? Because I have all esteemed people here, and the NHS chart, because I think that is hitting close to home. Where is it? Sorry, where did it? Oh, it's at the bottom. Okay.
It's at the beginning, yeah, it's in the front.
Yes. Okay.
Do you know the Queen knighted Klaus Schwab in 2006?
No.
What? Sorry, can you repeat that?
Is Sir Klaus Schwab.
Okay,
Are you
this is a
kidding
chart
me?
of the
Oh,
NHS. I know, it's
2006.
ridiculous. Tania, don't even go there. This is a separate conversation. But anyway, this is the NHS, okay? Now, we all know that 5th of July, 1948 is when it was, opened up, because post-war government and all of that, there's a lot of birth of NHS, there's a lot of documentation available. This is the first picture taken. And so I don't have a time, but I'm assuming it'll be sometime in the morning. Saturn is in Cancer. It is a Raj Yoga if it is Shani in Cancer with Cancer ascendant. And Moon is Atmakaraka. So I think NHS has had a brilliant run. It's been like upheld as like one of the successful models. But going forward, I think from 2022 to 2023, it is going to be, unfortunately, it's going to be no more. I am confident of that, because look at just the transits, and if you even take the Vimshotri, it's Ketu Dasha is beginning in this year in 2022, and Ketu is a complete loss of everything, and Ketu is in Marana in the 4th house, and it is in Libra, Rahu Ketu, it is a nodal return as well, but I'm sure they've had loads of couple of nodal return, but that's not the point. The point is there's also an eclipse going on here, plus Shani is in the 8th house of restructuring, revamping everything. I think it'll get privatized.
Well, that again seems to be the
agenda.
The agenda, because I mean they're clearly going to sack 100,000 people or whatever. So
absolutely,
obviously there's no pandemic taking place. Otherwise, they won't be sacking all the nurses and doctors and the care workers. So they're going to replace them with the immigrants and lower the standards to get them in. Absolutely. So it's all, the health is just a way of bringing about fulfilling the agenda. And as you say, the agenda appears to be to break up the NHS, which, to be fair, does need reform. And it's an enormous Stalinist bureaucracy, which no longer serves the public. The amount of beds in it, despite the fact they've spent literally hundreds of billions of pounds, that the number of beds is decreasing year on year. So, I mean, the place just need total reform. But nevertheless, what replaces it may not be anything better necessarily. I mean, I just fear if the American health companies get their hands on it, then, anything could happen.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, let's move. We don't have time, and we cannot keep our astrologers, Western guys waiting here. So this is the chart of the Queen. This was, I think, one of the recent images of her. She looks quite all right, actually, for someone who is so incredibly, that in 94. But
Sonal, say it.
No. She looks amazing for someone who's 95.
She looks better than me. She's 30 years.
Yeah, absolutely. And bless her, and she is going.
They freeze her by night, you know that, right?
Sorry.
They freeze her by night, you know that.
I was just waiting for someone to say.
Sorry,
if this country were all frozen at night.
But she does have Vargottama Lagna, which explains her longevity, and an exalted Ketu in the Lagna. And obviously that is also Vargottama. And of course, she's amassed and stabilized the British economy. Look at the moon in Nidhi Rashi, moon in Lagna, with Ketu in Lagna, Navamsha Lagna, which is fantastic. She has managed to amass wealth and keep it over 60 years, but anyway, why am I talking when I have like two British stalwarts here? Come on, guys. I have a feeling that, it's,
well, I mean,
he's not looking happy.
I think she's, she's 95. I think she'll get to 96, and sometime in that 2-year period, that would be a demise. But I mean, it's not at her age. It's no great shock. And certainly this year, from April, I think her birthday is in April, around about the 15th or something.
Yes, indeed.
Then, I think she'll get that, and that year could be quite dangerous.
Absolutely.
But she might get through it, but, it's in that 2-year period that...
but if you see the Vimshottari, it is, she's at the end of Jupiter and Antardasha of Rahu. Rahu means like, it's, Rahu Dasha, as an Antardasha, when I'm not convinced. Rahu is I
think there might be a few minutes difference in the birth time, because in the Navamsha, I can't quite see it on here because of the way I've got it set up. But I think the Lagna is Sagittarius. So I think
it is Sagittarius.
I think if you move a birth time forward a few minutes, then it might make Sagittarius the 12th house, and she's in Jupiter Mahadasha, I think. That 12th is the house of death, so a few minutes might change things. And I think she's in a period when, if you look at it from other ways of looking at it, then I think the next 2 years is problematic for her.
See, we won't go into the calculation of the Gemini calculation, but essentially 2023, I'll be very surprised if she reaches her Saturn Dasha of beginning in December 2023. I really would be very surprised, given that there are 2 eclipses happening on her Surya, in Aries, in Ashwini. I don't, it's tough going. So, but that's my 2 pennyworth. Anybody wants to add? And then we move to the Rod and Tania. Anyone? Anything?
The Rahu going over the sun and Mercury is a very weak point in the chart, and Jupiter going over there maybe gives her a good release. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think it would bring in some instability into the country with Charles taking over, because he's not popular.
Yeah, but Charles is not even going to survive.
I think after a while he'll handle. He has a very problematic sun in the 4th house with Mercury and Ketu all in Varuna Karikasthana, and Venus debilitated on top of that. I think he'll probably make his wife queen sooner than he takes the reins himself. But I think he'll probably take it on as a formality and then hand it over.
Absolutely.
I think that's the wise thing for him to do.
I'm not sure she can be queen. There's some technique.
No, that was a joke.
Oh, sorry, right.
It was a joke on my part. Sorry, my jokes are very straight-faced. But no, it's fine. I think
But I do think that ultimately it'll land up in the lap of Prince William and Kate.
Well, this problem's there because he was very popular, mainly because of his wife, Kate, but he's quite regal, but he's putting his foot in it, and his popularity is declining. So I'm afraid longer term for the monarchy, that's me. You keep putting me up there. So
it was just, it's never mind.
Fellow was in those days. I think there's problems for the monarchy longer term, but that's for another day.
Yeah. Let's hear our friends. Okay.
Yes, our friends. Can we wake up Rod? I'm sorry. I do apologize. We've gone for over 2 hours. Blimey. Okay, who's going first, Rod or Tanya?
I think Tanya would go first. And
Okay.
you had
You
show
choose
her
so.
Okay,
slides.
so Tanya, I
I'm
am
slowly
good.
wake up.
okay. Lovely, thank you,
Rod, you have a
Rod.
bit more time to sleep. It's fine.
You are allowed, Rod, to. In fact, I'm
Don't
very
snore.
grateful. Yes, I'm very grateful that at least you came, because really, I think, like I said, everybody on this planet at some point will get COVID. It is a given. So, I am thankful that you are here and made the effort. But Tanya, over to you. And it is such a pleasure having you here. Now, tell me, are you not, I noticed that you were translating some, old texts, Hellenistic texts. So tell us a little bit on that front.
No. I'm not translating. Hello, everybody.
Yes.
And thank you for the invitation, Sonal.
Yeah. Welcome.
It's my first time that I speak in a conference where it's mixed between Jyotish and Western, so it's new for me. I'm translating cool pepper. It's nothing Hellenistic.
Fantastic.
It's medieval. Yeah. No, not even. It's Renaissance. So
beautiful.
I'm translating this into German, but I'm working on my own book, and this book deals with a lot of Hellenistic and Persian sources, actually. So, but I'm not translating. I can translate, but I'm not into that.
Yeah.
And that book is on latitude and declination, and I try to build the information here in this
fantastic little, so beautiful talk. Absolutely.
So
and Culpepper is
Culpepper is my favorite. He is
mine too.
Mine too. I love him. It's really difficult to translate him, actually, because he has so many ways to say things that are so typically English, and they are hard to translate, but the content is great, and so I will have to find a way how to make him speak properly German. So and I think I will build a lot of visual material into his his text, which is totally lacking in
beautiful
in the book that I'm working with the original text.
Yeah.
But okay, speaking of, I'm not a Jyotisher, so I just tried to look intelligent when you were speaking. So no, go. Yeah, okay, let it here. I tried to find topic which could be interesting for our two perspectives.
Yeah.
I use whole sign houses always, and I only use the visible planets. So this is already one common ground, I think.
Oh, fantastic! Can I just before you move on, Tanya? I'm getting some rattling noise. Is there?
I think this is my. Yes. Okay, I take it.
Oh, okay. I beg your pardon.
Sorry. Sorry. Good.
Because we want to hear you.
Yeah. Okay. That's hope so.
Yeah.
Okay. So I had a look on many charts, but we are from many countries. So we have South Africa, we have England. I'm from Italy. We have Rod from Taiwan. So it was difficult to focus on a particular chart.
Yeah.
So we could have the ingress charts from many different countries, and so this didn't feel right. So I just looked at the superior planets, specifically the malefics, which I think are more important for us at the moment to look at and to see what they're doing actually, and what they're doing to us, obviously. And then I found an old article of mine which was on Mars between Sword and Nettles, and so I chose to go back to Mars. And what is interesting that today is actually the day that Mars crosses the solstice point of the summer of the not solstice of the sun eclipse from the
solar
4th of December, the solar eclipse of 12 degrees of Sagittarius in Western astrology. So Mars is my topic, and I want to show you why he is so important. And I think most of what you have said from your perspective, you all, is actually it agrees pretty much with what I am going to say. So let's move on. First of all, if you go, I can't move the slide, so you have to do it, Sonal.
I will happily.
Okay, no, just telling the others.
Yeah.
So yes, so I was just giving very general look at Mars transits, and what I found out that well, he enters his exaltation now in January, and then he moves each month by one sign, more or less. So this is, he enters Aquarius on March 6th, enters Pisces April 15th, and so on and so forth. But what I'm interested in is he enters Gemini in August 20, and he stays there until January 2023. So he stays 6 months in just one sign. And so I found it very interesting that we have half a year with just one sign, where actually Mars doesn't have great, dignities. And he is also going out of bounds within this period, especially from October 18th to May 6th of the next year. So he enters, or he goes out of bounds when he is in Gemini, and he leaves out of bounds position when he is already out of Gemini. So, but it's a pretty long time he spends there. So can we go to the next slide?
Yes.
It is just a very general. So I'd like to see what Mars actually describes, and I'm focusing here on his.
Sorry, Tania, sorry, we are still getting now that rattling sound is increased. Sorry. Oh, beautiful.
So far, so good. Has it gone?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I talk with my hands, so maybe I move my
Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I'd like to focus on Mars and Gemini, but I will show what he's doing in the entire year.
Yeah.
So my focus is here on August 2022 until January 23. So first of all, Gemini is an earthroplicity. So what this means is, in a very general way, that his actions come with or through the air or affect the air. So these can be the airways, right? This can be anything in nature which relates to air, like storms or hurricanes or something like that. Everything that pollution, right? Everything that is transported or has to do with air. It's also speech, because we speak using air, right? But then it's a bicorporal sign, so it indicates a strong polarity. So 2 points of view, right? It's also an indication of a certain instability, because it's not a fixed sign. It's a bipolar sign. So it's diurnal and it's male, so it's the energy of Mars is active, direct, it's pushing, right? Well, if it was female, it was more delayed, it was more passive, it was more submissive, but now he is pushing. He's pretty strong in this. So it reflects more the own energy of Mars. So then what I found particularly important is Gemini is a crooked or a bleached rising sign. So the way he acts, or the planet acts, is there are possible shortcuts, because a crooked rising sign is not rising straight, right? So if you talk about a sea that a person that escapes away, then he makes a zigzag move. He is not going direct to its to his hiding place, so to say. So if we translate this on Mars, then we see that he might change ideas, he might try the easier way, and then he gets longer. So it's not really necessarily how to say an only goal, only objective. He might change it, right? There's a lot of change and motion and instability of what the purpose is, right? The change of mind, the status, and the actions might not be thought thoroughly through, right? Because you're slipping in a certain way. It's a warm and moist sign, so this also adds to the quite an easy exchange. It can be an easy exchange of words, right? Like a dispute or a discussion, which is favored because there's not just one point of view, there are several, and we can change opinions, but it is also reflecting easy diffusion. It's a martial diffusion, so we have to take care of what we diffuse, what we talk about. All what we talk about and diffuse in a martial way will be spread quickly. And also, we are talking about, Mars is also the natural ruler of a virus, any kind of aggression. So it's also spreading, right? It's not necessarily an illness, but the word spreads easily, right? It can be a good word, it can be a bad word, but it will be a martial word, right? So and he's a natural ruler. This is, I think, the same for Jyotish and Western astrology of aggression, mischief, danger, war, energy, any kind of energy, electricity in a positive way, adrenaline, courage, and action in whatever way. So, but in Gemini, Mars is disposed by Mercury, and here comes the rational process in. So we have months that are coming up. There will be a lot of thinking, speaking, and communication that is martial, right? This is a rational process, but it's martial actions. It's not so much about speaking, which is Mercury, but it's the martial actions. So it's a rational process. Mars fits in or fills in this rational process. So it is pushing, right? They are pushing onto us, which not necessarily is a positive thing because it's Mars. It's a malefic. So and I'm thinking a lot of mass media, right? We have seen already in the last, especially in the last year, maybe in the last 2 years, that the one of the words most used is fake news, right? Yeah. And so the manipulation, which is also Mars, is very easy when he is in a bicorporal sign, in a human sign, which is linked to people, to humans, right? So from all these things together, I think that mass media or any kind of media, from YouTube and Twitter and everything that our news feed, whatever we do as on a social, community basis, will be influenced by this Mars, and he has no dignity. So this is something that is pushed on us, probably. It depends on the chart of the nation and what chart we are looking at. But in a very general, broad sense, there is an overpowering on us or on people or on media in general, right? And it is linked to Mercurian process, that is the rational process. So it's not the thinking, the emotional thinking. It's not the feeling. It's just numbers. Also markets, right? Mercury rules markets. So we come back to what everybody of you has said before about the market exchange. And it's also linked to transport. So this is what I am, this is, my starting point, so to say. And also, I'm not sure if this will work out, but I'm looking at Gemini is the 3rd house from Aries, and it's the 8th house from Scorpio. That's what Persian authors did. They look at these two relationships. So this would strengthen my opinion that has a lot to do with communication, 3rd house. And 8th house is, overwhelming, obliging people to do things, right? Okay, Sonal, can we move on?
Yeah.
Okay, oh, it's already a third. Yeah, so these are the major aspects that Mars will have this year. I'm just looking at, you know, my the visual planets. If you look, I have looked for you. I wasn't sure if you would use the outer planets, the modern planets. This looks a little crowded. There are a lot of aspects, especially in the first half of 2022, just saying. So if you look at Saturn, Jupiter, Uranus and Pluto, the first half of the next year will be, you know, stuffed with transits. But I like to keep it more. Oh, Sonal, you haven't my symbols here. Sorry.
Yeah, I can see them. They're there.
No, you can't. No, the text hasn't the symbols. Here, you see? Oh wait. This is a problem of the font. Anyway.
Yeah, the fonts.
Yeah, the fonts. Okay. Anyway, the first transit on the left. It's Mars, Saturn, right? On the 5th of April. Can you see this? I can't move even my mouse. Yes. The first. Go to the cross point.
Here.
Yeah. Go down to the cross. Yeah. There. This is no.
Where they intersect.
Yes. Yeah, intersection. Sorry. Yes. So this is the conjunction of Mars and Saturn. We have two of them, right? The next is on the right. On the right. So no, yes, that's the next one. That's a square. If I'm not mistaken. Yeah, that's a square from August 7th. So I think these are the two main aspects that we should look at that will, yeah, cause more damage. Then there's a nicer one that's Mars and Jupiter. It's above, at the first above. Yes, that's a nicer one. That's on May 29. Okay, but what worries me more is the double aspect of Saturn. And interestingly, the second aspect on the right, Sonal, on the right, yes, is shortly before Mars moves into Gemini. The red dot is when he moves into Gemini, and where he goes retrograde, right? So we have these points that I look at very closely, and if you go down to see the bottom line here, it rounds down. Yeah, that's when Mars goes retrograde, and he will go retrograde in Gemini. Go to the next slide, please. Hopefully, yeah, okay. So this is no, sorry, there should be another one. Yeah. No, there's Mars and latitude. Go next. Go next. Okay. Yeah. So this is from August 22 until mid-January, we can say. He is in Gemini, and in the square aspect here from end of October until the beginning of January, Mercury is retrograde. Can you see this? I just point the square there to have a visual effect. So he says 6 months in Gemini, and we can say half of it he is retrograde. So he goes back and forth. So this is what we look here. Go back to the slide before, Sonal, please. So this is what he does in longitude, right? He stays for 6 months in Gemini, and half of that he's retrograde. So now I want to see what he's doing by latitude. This is what my book is about, actually. So I found it interesting that the COVID outburst was happening exactly in February, March. Well, it was late February here in Italy when everything started. And Mars at that moment was at his perigee, at his furthest southern latitude. And he can reach until 651 degrees, I think, into the south and 4 into the north. We don't have such a big peak into latitude in the next year. I'm just looking here in the 2022, which you can see above. Yes, above. So we have a smaller peak. Yeah, so no, that's right. There, yeah. No, yeah, that's so no. The peak in the southern latitude is just 149 on July 2nd. No, it's the next. Yeah, it's this one.
Yeah.
yeah, it's just it's in July 2nd, shortly before he goes he enters Gemini, so he will be what's called ascending South at that moment. And then he has another peak in the next year at on the 9th of January, right? So there are no so big peaks. I don't expect something very, big. The peak in February in last year was much bigger, and it is showing what happened, and so I wouldn't be too concerned about the general outway, but it will be more muddy in a certain way. Can we move? Yes, the next one. Okay. Also, the declination. Interestingly, we have. At the beginning of the year, Mars moves into Capricorn, which is the first of the southern signs, talking about ecliptic declination. And so within the entire year, he moves toward the north. He is just in northern signs, right? I found this also interesting. There is no difference in this kind of energy. He's moving northwards. His major, he will spend more time north of the ecliptic, as he will also spend north of the equator. Right, move on. Okay, so we have seen that Mars is important this year, especially from August on. I have to click away here, all of you, sorry. Okay. Yes, better. So, and then I just wanted to check these charts are for Rome. Well, it's Perugia, it's my hometown, but it's close to Rome. Sorry, it's just a minute or whatever. Forgot about it. What is interesting here is I showed you where Mars is and where the eclipse is. So the first eclipse on the 13th of April is in Taurus, in the 6th house. So there's concentration on the 6th house topic again. Mars is not the ruler of the ecliptic of the eclipse, but he makes a very close sextile to it. But it's the last eclipse where he is not involved directly. So, but just focus. It's the 6th house, right? And Mars is in the 4th. In the next eclipse, he is actually the ruler of the eclipse, right? The eclipse takes place in the 11th house, and the ruler, Mars, the dispositor of the eclipse, is in the 6th house. I can't tell that I like this. And you also know that Italy is the country that is pushing most for the green pass, for restrictions, for vaccination. I think we are the country that is more vaccinated than any other country in Europe, maybe with the exception of Gibraltar, maybe also of Portugal. But there are many restrictions on that. So you see that he plays a role in the two eclipses, but the most important is certainly this one here, the second eclipse, where well, the dispositor is in the 6th house. Can we move on, please, Sonal? These are the sonal eclipses, the lunar eclipses. And you see here he is the dispositor of the moon, also in the 6th house, right? And in the 12th, obviously. So this is an energy that I did not want to see actually again. And in the last eclipse of the next year, the same, the ruler of the sun. In the first, he is the dispositor of the moon. In the 6th house, and in the second eclipse, he is a dispositor of the sun, and both and he is in the 6th house here. So there's always this the same situation, right? A very similar pattern, which shows up. So you were saying before that I don't remember if it was Paul or Gordon. I don't remember. He said that it should be easier next year with COVID. I'm not sure. Next slide, please. This is a situation for Italy. So this is a chart of Italy when it became a nation. So there are different, go back to the Italian chart, please. Sonal.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, Italy. Let's start there. So you have seen the eclipses for Italy, and you see that Italy has a Gemini ascendant, and we have Mars going back and forth in the first house for Italy. So a first house in Western modern astrology is health, right? So this is health related. And Mars, we are talking about Mars, is in the 12th house in Italy's chart. So Mars will be crossing over descendant in Italy, right? And just saying that Mars is obviously the 6th house ruler. So is there a place where I can go to? Please let me know. Really, I don't like this. I like this. So very, very quickly, right? And we have also the moon in the first house. So it's everything has to do with health issues. Next slide is not any Italy, is Great Britain. And there we have Mercury is, Gemini is in the 9th house. So this is everything that has to do with foreigners. And we have Mars here in the 8th house. So endings of everything that has to do with foreigners. So I'm thinking of Brexit or consequences of Brexit. And we have Mars crossing on and on here. So there will be a lot of fight and trouble. And yeah, also Mars is in Gemini. Gemini has to do with exchange and markets and so on. So Sonal, you said before that you expect shortages or something like that.
Yeah.
I would agree that could be a possibility that there will be struggle with things related. And last is the US chart, I think. Yes, the Sibley chart. And yeah, no wonder they have already Mars in the 7th house. So that's the house of open enemies and what you make of them. If you aggress them, if you stay put, well, you know, it's also the Mercury has this long retrograde period, and well, how can we say that? A long retrograde period makes not only change things, but it is interiorized, right? There's a lot of internal struggle. Also, if we see the OK chart, when it goes retrograde, then I would rather wonder if this is the point where it starts to get difficult to get supplies for the UK, right? Where the interior problem starts, right? Rather than exportation, which might be a problem when he's direct. But when he is retrograde, he might rather be a problem to get the supplies. So yeah, this was quick and dirty. You gave me 5 minutes, Sonal, so I have just but we are just 5 of us, is that right? So we are just, where are the other people? Well, Olgan.
Yeah, I'm listening.
Good. Yeah, so yeah, this was it. We can discuss it, what you think about it. I would like to be a little bit more optimistic.
Yeah, if you go with the Italy chart, the Italy chart.
The first, this is the one. Yes, this one.
Yes, because Mars is going through Gemini. I just want to see where Mercury is placed in all the country charts. So in Italy, it's in the 10th house.
Yeah. Okay,
and debilitated and ruling the ascendant. Okay. Is there any sort of leadership issue happening in Italy?
I'm just saying that in the Ingress chart, Gemini is on the 10th house.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And this has also to do, next year, there will be a new president of the Republic, which is most probably going to be Draghi. And Draghi, you know that he has been the head of the European Bank.
Mm-hmm.
So we are going back to currencies, money, exchange, Mars and Gemini, right?
Right.
So, and he has not been elected. He has never been elected.
Okay. So,
But the other choice is to have Berlusconi back again as a president of the Republic.
Ooh.
Yeah, right?
what wonderful choices. Okay.
Yeah, it's either bunga bunga or it's you remember that?
Yeah.
It sounds like Draghi is going to be very forceful in making financial changes that might not be so great.
Which do you prefer? Which do you think is better?
I don't prefer anybody. I think Draghi is just working for the banks. He's not working for the Italians. He's just cutting off everything. He's making poor people poorer. He has no strategy. He has no goal for Italians people. He's just thinking about money and debt. So I understand that this is something that needs to be done, but not paying the poor people. And and I think he has way much to do with big organizations.
Yeah.
You know, Italy has been the first country to force vaccination for all employees, and now from February on, I think they won't take away the possibility of testing. They just want vaccination. And so, and for the kids too. So it's very, very pushing.
But it seems like the world governments are pushing for children. Even in India, there's a big drive for children getting vaccinated as young as like 4 or 5.
But there was this scandal. I have been sent yesterday an official document from Pfizer. Yeah. And Pfizer tried to conceal document for the next 55 years. And in this document, there were all the contraindications of this vaccine. So you can be either pro or contra of the vaccine. This is a very personal choice. But if the information is withheld, and this is one thing that I think has to do with Mars retrograde in Gemini, the news of faked or withheld or manipulated rather than when Mars is direct. This can be pushing news and it can be restrictions, but it's in an open way. While when it's retrograde, then it's everything that is concealed. And I wonder if millions of people are vaccinated with Pfizer, why these people should not know what they are. You have to sign that you agree to have the vaccine and that you know about the contraindications. But when they conceal them and hide them, then what can you actually do? What is the signature? What does it mean?
Well, Paul has something to say. Paul?
Yeah, sure.
Well, I mean, there's over 34,000 people apparently being killed in Europe by the vaccines.
Yeah. A friend of mine, a colleague, by the way, his granddaughter, 19 years old, she got paralyzed, 70% paralyzed.
This is insanity. And they're after the children because obviously they're the future. They're not after, old geezers, like me or anything. They're really after the children. This is what they're after. And this is insanity. And I mean, unless this is stopped, this is the end of humanity because it's only going to get worse.
Well, I think it should be a personal choice to make, but it's all becoming mandatory, and this is a kind of dictatorship. You can be in favor, perfectly fine, but when it's forced, especially on children, when in the huge wave last year, when so many people died of it, and when so many people died
this is Nazism or communism, whichever way you want to do it. I mean, this is what the Nazis were doing.
Absolutely.
Call a spade a blinking spade. I mean, this is the way it's going, and the people behind this, are, well, we've already mentioned, they're from the Nazi era, some of them, I mean, there's been total corruption.
I don't know. I don't know if we should use so strong, comparisons. But it certainly feels that the green path now is and what is it else? It is something. I
It's
think this
all
is
this
Mars
all,
in Gemini. Actually, the green pass. It's something.
all
forced.
these passes are based on the Gesundheits pass that was used in Nazi Germany.
Yeah.
So Tania, for Italy, the Mars will be going over the second house ruler of the chart, and also the Mercury's in the Mercury being Mercury, and also Mercury being in the 10th house. So for Italy, it's the focus is the financial manipulations and maybe pushing also, using if you want money, you got to do something. You got to do this. You got to do that.
You know that in Italy, since the 6th of December, if you don't agree to be vaccinated, you lose your job, right? So it's just there. It's not just the nurses and the doctors, which might be comprehensible. It's everybody. If you have, it's even if I want a babysitter for my kids at home, and I'm not, I don't request a green pass.
Yeah, so that's the way they get control.
I don't give it nothing if you have the job or not. I can't do this because the babysitter will be paid a huge amount of money, and I will be amended with a huge amount of money. So even in the private sector, you can't be unjobbed anymore. And now from February on, they are thinking to make it mandatory for kids at school. It's already on the buses, so my kids can't use a bus anymore, right? It's bringing parents in really, really big trouble.
So what are people doing?
Yeah,
are they accepting it? I mean, I know there's resistance in Italy because I've seen the demonstrations, but I mean,
yeah, but you know what, Paul? It's you don't see anything of it. The news is I have never seen it. With one exception, when at school we learned about the 40s, then there was this huge indoctrination, right? Just repeat the same sentence 100 times, 1,000 times, 1,000,000 times, and sooner or later it will enter in your head. This is what is happening. It's terroristic propaganda, whatever you think about the jab, but it's always repeated. We are not talking about anything more, anything else. I don't know in UK, but in Italy it's huge. It's huge.
Well, that's why I said don't listen to the mainstream media, because
I don't.
All the papers are essentially funded by the government now. The government's paid something like £234 million to the papers, because otherwise, a lot of these papers don't have a big enough circulation. So they've all been turned into propaganda sheets for the government.
Yeah, but this is all the story. What I see, it's with Mars and Gemini next year. I think this will be massive. I hope people will stand up, and because now it's now you need to in order to have a job, you need two jobs. But when the next step is you need 3. In Israel they are having 4. So when does it stop? And I can't even go to a museum, not even an open air museum anymore if I'm not jabbed. So culture is cut off. Kids are not anymore allowed to go to school if they are not vaccinated. It's kind of mandatory already. So there are still ways to slip around, but not many. This is everything. And Omicron. Everybody here in Italy is ill. So my neighbors are ill. Everybody has Omicron, but they have a cold. Yeah. This variant is not. It's not not so hard, right?
So what you were saying about mainstream media and stuff is all the more so for the UK, because in that chart, Mercury is in the 3rd house, itself, and it's debilitated there. Interestingly, again, also in the UK chart. Sonal, if you just move it.
Yeah.
The UK.
The next one. No, next one.
See, the Mars is going through Gemini, which is the 9th, and Mercury, the ruler, is debilitated. So I think, the drive there. So maybe in the UK, since Mars is the 7th house ruler, transiting the 9th, that's showing foreign hands in the media. There's another agenda, external agenda in the media. happening. And the Mercury is a very important planet for the Prime Minister of the UK. So he's more. If Mercury says jump, Boris will say how high, because he's very much on that Mercury sort of vibe. And in the US, where's the Mercury in the US chart? In the 8th house. Okay, interesting. Yeah.
But we could also look at the pharmaceutical companies where they are.
Sure.
Because
And
these are the new rulers of the world. It's
Oh, absolutely. Tanya, 100%. It's basically an invasion of.
Well, there was a scandal with Ursula von der Leyen, who has a kind of, it's supposed, one says that she has a kind of relationship to the CEO of the Pfizer. I don't know what kind of relationship. I'm not interested in gossip, but there is kind of relationship. They were messaging and exchanging, things. And after that, she was for a mandatory vaccination. So, when
she got paid off, basically.
I don't know. I can't say, but it's interesting that the politicians seem to, repeat what pharmaceutical companies want them to say. And also the fact that a report of dozens of pages, and I invite you to read it, from Pfizer, that they wanted to conceal. I have the link if you are interested. I will send it only privately.
Okay.
It's really interesting how many contraindications there are, and if only half of that is true, only 10th of that is true, then we have a huge problem. And then we should ask, okay, all these fact checkers, all these hunters for fake news, why aren't they on that? Why can't people who just talk about natural medicine, for example, be banned from Facebook, which happened to a friend of mine, for example, without talking about COVID or anything? Somebody you all know, by the way.
You
check. Facebook has said that the fact checkers do not check facts. It's admitted that they're checking opinions. It's based on opinions, not facts.
Absolutely.
It's admitted it. It's admitted it.
Just give you an example. My husband published something that was just for fun. It was using some words from a dialect, and they said, "Oh, this is it's xenophobic." It had nothing to do with xenophobic. It was just a dialect form of saying some stuff, but it was banned. Without checking the content, it was just, and it was not even about COVID. COVID is you can't say anything anymore. There is attack on you. Whatever you say.
Yeah, absolutely. The minute you challenge anything, they say, "Oh, you're an anti-vaxxer."
You don't even need to challenge. You just need to talk about it or to spread anything, even a favor, but they will put attack on it.
Absolutely.
So I don't know.
So it's interesting that we're talking about Mercury Mars going to Gemini and the Mercury connections, and in the US chart, it's the 7th house, and Mercury's in the 8th house, ruling the 10th. The 10th house rules in the 8th house, and it so happens to be Mercury. And Kamala Harris is Gemini rising with Mercury in a sign of Mars in her chart.
But also remember
it could be a situation where, and this is purely speculation, where one leader is becoming, doesn't want to do what they want to be done, and so another leader is put in who will do it, a more mercurial leader.
I wonder also, these injections are also shown by Mars, right? And these retrograde period, which is so prolonged, or it's in Gemini in a human sign. So I wonder what this will be about, right? We have already 2 vaccines taken away, at least in Italy. It's AstraZeneca is not given anymore, and Johnson is not given anymore, except for particular cases. But
the good
the general public, it's not given anymore. Too unsafe.
So that's good though, but that's progress. But the best progress, in my view, is that, and I wish it is available here, the Covaxin of India. Now, it took them forever to get the approvals by the World Health Organization, but finally they've got the Covaxin. And the Covaxin is an inactivated vaccine. That means it's along traditional lines. There's no side
There's another
effect.
one. There's this one from Cuba, from Cuba, and Cuba also uses just a protein, not an MSRN whatever.
mRNA, yeah. And so that is so that is not active. It doesn't enter your bloodstream into the brain. You know, it's not messing about with the myocarditis, which is like one of the leading causes, side effects of the vaccine, you know. And so the Covaxin is, and it's just 2 doses is all you need, as in like, you know, within 30 days.
I would point out that this COVID has a 99.97% recovery in any case. You know, it's just ridiculous. And apart from that, you know, there is the other thing, the ivermectin and everything, which have been proven to be workable. That's been around for a long time, but which has been suppressed. I mean, it's just ridiculous. You don't need to take anything.
I think we should stick to astrology, because otherwise we will be banned too.
Yeah, I think you know what, you're right.
We're not doing a workshop on vaccines.
Yeah. So
okay, but I hear you, Paul. I totally, Tania, Paul, thank you, but I totally get it. But all I'm saying is that if I had to take a vaccine, and it would be Covaxin, just to tick the box so that I can travel. But yes, it is a global problem, and you cannot hide it anymore. I'm afraid.
I would like to add the last thing, and then we need absolutely to pass to Rod. He's sitting here and waiting. I just think I was thinking about the last great conjunction, and this was for Western astrologers. It was Jupiter and Saturn in Aquarius, and Aquarius is a human sign, right? And everybody was saying, oh, this is about brotherhood and being all together and peace and love and stuff. And I said, okay, I don't think so.
Sick brothers. Sick brothers.
Yeah, we could not stick together actually. So, you know, mask and no, well, it's about borders, right? It's not only physical borders, but, you know, distance. Taking distance. Lockdown is also described perfectly by Saturn. Everything that restrains and separates, right? Totally the contrary to brotherhood and stuff. And so this is what was I going to say? This kind of mass hypnosis.
Yes.
Right? So if you control people with fear, if you spread, we are back to spreading, right? I talked before. If you spread terror and fear, especially about your health, then people will almost do everything because they are afraid to get ill, which is totally normal. I don't want to get ill. You don't want to get ill. Nobody wants to get ill, right? So we will do nearly everything to keep healthy. But actually, it was totally the contrary what happened. So they took us away information, or they nearly, you know, they concealed information, which was about how to strengthen in a natural way the immune system, maybe in order to get vaccinated later, if you want so. But there was no information. So if they had bombarded us with information about how to get healthy, this would have been
better.
Totally. Yes.
Yeah, but that was
personally, but, you know, but there was no choice.
Wanted everybody kept in lockdown to avoid them getting the sunlight that generates vitamin D. That stops. All this
and
stuff.
in Italy, when you switched on the news, the 8 p.m. news, it was the first thing you saw was a general, who counted the death. Today we had 129 victims of COVID. 20,000 new infections, 129 deaths. It started like this every day for months.
Same here.
So this is it was the same in the UK. Great. So if this is not an expression of Saturn, then you tell me.
Absolutely. But also I think you know, what's his name, David Icke. You know, if you heard of, everybody kept saying, oh, he's just a conspiracy theorist. But hey ho, who's laughing now? You know, everything that he said has come to pass now. you know, and so it's like, okay, you know, actually there's some truth in it. And Russell Brand as well has started, he does it with humor, but that's why he's probably not got thrown out from, you know, the various channels. But it's like we are in a totalitarian government, world governments.
But when we have this, the first conjunction, Mars-Saturn, on April 5th, and the next is a square on August 7th, I think something will come up. Something will change about this psychoterror. Whatever your opinion is on this, but I think that I have never heard so many people, even if they are totally convinced and totally pro-vax, I have never heard so many people to say, saying, I don't switch the TV on. I don't trust the news anymore.
Yeah.
Whatever they say, they're not trustable anymore. So.
Yeah, but don't you think that in the Mars-Saturn square, Saturn is still having the dominating side of that square aspect because it's Dexter, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, you know, Mars is Mars going to be able to put up a fight? Will they just come up with another Saturn scary reason why we need to keep quiet?
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
which probably will be the economy issue. So, but
yeah, I'm not positive about this year. I don't think this will be about freedom. So, and we have seen in the chart of Italy, there are just everything is about the sixth house. Put it in one way or another. You have seen this, right? So
anyway,
yeah, it's either the ruler of the eclipse in the eighth house, or it's eclipse in the eighth house, or something like that. So
yeah, that eclipse is it's a bit of a, I hate to say it, but it's not going to be an easy eclipse.
You know what? Just come to South Africa, because it takes 2 years for anything to get down here anyway. So
yeah,
if there's crap happening in the northern hemisphere, just come to South Africa. It'll take 2 years. At least you get 2 more years of normal life.
But somebody said the COVID will die out, right? Was it you, Paul? I don't remember.
It was Gordon Brennan.
Gordon, yeah. I don't know if he's still here.
He's here. He's listening probably.
It's interesting because many people think.
I'm listening.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, and I would think so too. It would probably be natural. Obviously I don't want to talk about virology. I'm not the expert, and I don't want to assume to be. But if the green pass was not needed for prevention, but if the infection was, needed in order to have the green pass, then this will be prolonged now. Artificially prolonged in some way, I don't know.
It's been artificially prolonged.
Either there will come a worst variant after Omicron, which I don't know, can be, or they have to prolong it another way.
I think one of the central banks in its report said that the COVID thing will end early in 2025 or something. It's all been planned out.
And I think it will end with a financial disaster and a crisis.
Well, the aim is to crash the economy and bring in the digital currency.
Yeah. So anyway,
and ongoing mandatory vaccinations. Yes, they will.
And so now Rod is going to tell us the good news, right?
Yeah, yes, but before Rod, we have hope. Please wake up, and we have hope in you with that Jupiter-Neptune conjunction. Looking forward in Pisces. But before you go, there is Sheila Jean White. She raised her hand for obviously some kind of a question. Yes, Sheila?
Yes, hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so if you think of Mars as an attack, a cutting, no matter which house it's in, whether it's in the 12th of secret enemies or the 7th as open enemies, or in the 8th as an economic result of an attack through other people's resources and their impact on you, or through death. And you also then think of Mars as the rulership for blood. A lot of the deaths are through the massive clotting brought about by the vaccine. So I just wanted to bring up that point And also that the same time that they're trying to roll out the digital currencies controlled by the central banks and the 5G network of communications, I believe that they're all tied together.
Yeah.
And that the symptoms of COVID are really, by putting a chip into people, you don't have to have cell towers every 50 feet. You don't have to cut down all the trees. You have your own little cell towers willingly signing up, supposedly, to function by getting a vaccine renewed frequently enough that you are the cell tower. And it's changing the human DNA. It's not just one way. It's not just that the messenger RNA shows up and makes a copy and then goes off its way and doesn't change anything about the human DNA that stays behind. It does change the human DNA. And so we're being attacked in secret. And I even question if these, I mean, I know it's corporations that their bottom line is to make money. In fact, that seems to be the only thing they care about. But I really question if, in fact, the people behind this are human. Yeah.
Interesting. Are they human?
It has been suggested.
I
and
think,
we have
well,
5
we maybe will see it when Pluto moves into Aquarius.
Yeah. Well, right now, I see pictures online of tanks in the US being shipped by rail to large cities. Now, you don't see a lot of it because I'm sure it's suppressed as soon as they catch on to it. But
Tanks,
I have seen
tanks with what?
Army tanks. Well, there's a lot of empty prisons and free camps.
Well, that's what Paul was suggesting earlier, weren't you, Paul? That in the UK, they're building prisons and incinerators all around.
Yes, there's one in Wellingborough. Oh, it's just over 1,000 people. It's a huge, it's like a small city or a small town. It has a crematorium, and they're going to be building these up and down the country. There'll be one in North Yorkshire, not far from here.
Right.
Okay.
They are building these modern prisons, very, very huge complexes.
Yeah. Okay. You know what? That is really scary, but we won't.
May I add just quickly that this is happening in Australia. There are camps being built. And it was in the news that these camps are for those people, the anti-vax people who got ill, and these people are transported to these camps. But what happens in these camps, I don't know.
Well,
So
here they're building crematoria with them. So because they've passed the Coronavirus Act, which is based similar to the 1933 Enabling Act that brought Hitler to power, they have, as long as you have an emergency, then the government has unlimited powers in effect. They can just take you away and you'll die of COVID, no matter what you die of. Well, anyhow, there we have it. Let's go on to the next gentleman.
Yes, I think, yes, Rod, sorry.
We count on you.
Yes, I think, look, guys, it is not exactly the most, uplifting times that we are living in. But remember, prarabdha karma, we chose all. If you want to take the Vedic view, we chose to be born and encounter these situations on a collective level at this time. So there is still some choice. We have a little bit of iota of choice, but over to you, Rod.
Okay.
Thank you and for patience. And of course, Rod, as we all know, is a little feeling under the weather because of the elephant in the room. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, this is not my usual voice, and it is not my usual speed for talking.
Yeah.
So, well, Tania, but not Tania. Sonal, could we go to next slide? Not this one.
Okay.
The Jupiter-Neptune one. Yes.
Yeah.
I will just very quick because I only prepared two things to talk. The one thing is the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction. Well, it is very interesting because if you want me to describe, I think for any professional astrologer in here, no matter what area we study, we will never just say, use one word to describe a whole year, because it's always quite complicated. And that from the modern mundane astrologer's view, well, I want to say it is also an interesting year. When I say interesting, well, that can be so many things in one way. I think the continue of the Saturn square Uranus from this year, 2021, the 3 times in January, in June, and then now is exactly a couple of days ago on the 24th of December, and now it's like they keep the 5-degree orbit until kind of a mid-February. My experience with this is this will continue, and since this Saturn square Uranus is kind of always in modern mundane astrology and the modern financial astrology view, are always related to financial things. Usually has like a huge financial impact and crisis that usually happen during this time. So that's what we are waiting for, because, and it's quite interesting, don't forget these 2 planets are both in fixed sign. The fixed sign has the famous name of prolonged things. They hold things until last minute. So even now is exact degree, and I think they could be probably happen a little bit later, around February, or maybe again when after February, these 2 planets will kind of the orbit was separated until July, I think in the summertime. These 2 planets will meet again, and this time I think orbit go 1 degree-ish, but never go exact. So it really fit into like what Tania talking about with Mars in the July, around the July time, that things is quite interesting. I share the same view, and also I heard it, because I'm sorry, because I can't really concentrate today. I try to catch few things, but I heard about something around the summer and July things we're talking about in Vedic view, and that is also I share the same view, but from the Saturn square Uranus view, they put things together and they're more intense around that time. That's one thing we should bear in mind. This kind of a conflict between old and new, and between like freedom and control, Uranus freedom and Saturn controlling authority. So this will continue, especially I think maybe we will feel a little bit relaxed around the springtime, but from summer, it will build up again, and then pretty intensive around September-ish. But yes, we are talking about the Jupiter, because today in the tropical zodiac, Jupiter moved into Pisces today. Well, yes, thank you, Tania. Yes, I wish I can do that. because if we do that, sounds a little bit quite like I give a hope. Really, I hope so. I really hope it would really happen. Especially, I mean, in in general view about Jupiter moving into Pisces, and even this year, because Jupiter will move between Pisces and Aries. Both sides are kind of have rulership with Jupiter. So Jupiter ruler Pisces, traditional ruler is Pisces, and Jupiter is the triplicity of the fire sign. Please correct me, because I'm not traditional astrologer at all. I try to steal your language. especially when I'm not really well. So
participating ruler.
But
right?
thank you. Yes, I have to be very careful and then
No, it's okay. Just adding.
Yeah. So so at least they going well with Jupiter. So it's true. I guess people will be more positive than last 2 years. So probably people will start thinking, oh, we are seeing the, light in the end of tunnel or something. Yes, true. But we cannot forget that Saturn-Uranus is waiting there. And another thing I want to describe 2022 is not exactly right word, so please correct me. But I have the feeling about we are sitting in the eye of storm, in the center of the storm. So this kind of peaceful feeling, either we are fooling ourselves or it's just temporary. Because if you compare 2022 and 2021, we have massive the Saturn-Uranus square. And what's waiting for us in 2023 is the terrible Pluto moving into Aquarius, Saturn moving into Pisces, the major shiftment, two huge unpleasant outer planet shifting sign. That means we all have to adopt new life. We all have to, have to learn, and the things is changing. Another things I will continue because Tania talking about the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in the air sign, late last 2020 and December 2020. People say, yes, I have same reaction as when Tania say, when people say, it's Aquarius age, it's about the love, brotherhood. Of course, I'm Aquarius. I will never deny that. But when I heard that, I still want to say brotherhood, my ass. Because if you go to study history, when every time the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction go back to air sign, air is unstable. And to look our society, most of us, we like stable life, to be honest, even me. But when the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction starting in the air sign, usually they have brought down the things built up in the Earth element for last 200 years. And that is not pleasant. That is not funny. That is kind of very destructive time for first.
Also the pandemics, right?
Yes, pandemic, because we used to call it plague, right?
No, in 1345 when the Black Plague came, this was
that's what
Aquarius.
I mean. That's what I mean. Yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I mean. Say we call it plague.
Okay.
So yes, so it's not an easy time for beginning, especially for the beginning of the Jupiter-Saturn conjunct in the air sign, but true. Yes, the Jupiter conjunct Neptune, the Jupiter moving into Pisces, or even in May move into Aries. It does give us some hope, uplifting. So that means even the situation wasn't that clear, but the people is like kind of, yes, we will be fine. We'll be fine next year. We'll be fine next year until 2023 in the early March when Pluto move into Aquarius, bang, another shit hit the fan again. But I want to talk about in May, Jupiter conjunct Neptune. It's quite interesting because yes, most people will think this is good for market only for that time, around the springtime. I think around April, May-ish. That is kind of okay-ish, but then we can see the market won't go up, but there's some people trying to hold it back too. So that could be very interesting. One thing, I think certain area like a shipment, medicine, chemical, especially chemical engineer, would be quite worth to look because you don't need to be a professional astrologer. You know, Pisces and Neptune are always things related to chemical engineer and the medicine. So that is very clear. But one thing will surprise you because when they conjunct in Pisces, It's quite interesting. It's another sign related to medicine and the chemical in the astrology language. Look, last time when 1856, when the Jupiter conjunct Neptune in Pisces, and something quite interesting happened. That was their exact conjunct, I think, was on 17th of March, 1856. 1 week after, I think William Perkin, who was the first one, kind of a synthetic the organic dye, the color mauve, on the 1856, 1 week after Jupiter conjunct Neptune in Pisces. And that is counted as a beginning of chemical industrial, 1856. How coincident. Astrology is amazing. And it's kind of interesting. So what I think is when at this time we have another Jupiter conjunct Neptune again in Pisces, the medicine, chemical, even fashion industrial could have another, maybe it's a game-changing point for this kind of area, the chemical engineer and chemistry, medicine, and shipment. Maybe it would be very, very interesting. So this is the things. Another things I want to bring in is another changing is the nodal axis moving into Taurus in the 18th of January. Well, according to the very, very famous financial astrologer, Louise McWriter, she's talking about, she used the nodal cycle with business cycle, especially when North Node move into Taurus, usually slow down the economic. So there's one side that Jupiter, Neptune give people some positive view and the hope. But the reality is we are step into decline. It seems it's coming down slowly. But I think could be some shocking around the summer when first Uranus conjunct with Node. Also, when the Saturn start to square Uranus again during that time. So there could be some shocking happen around that time, and especially when, if Mars is approaching nearby, that would be quite interesting. So because I think Tania put the traditional view about the eclipse and other things, so I will not repeat it. I want to bring something quite interesting because I think you may or may not heard about a comet. If you going out, especially, I think now maybe only Nathan can see it because it's going to move to South Hemisphere now.
You're talking about the Leonard comet.
Yeah.
Yes,
it's a comet is coming. So Sonal, could I go back to the slides before? Thank you. Yeah, so here what I showing you is the target, the journey of this comet since it could be seen by the naked eyes. So I mean, although I'm modern astrologer, but when it comes to comet, I take a kind of slightly traditional view. I only calculate it, or I only consider its influence only when it could be seen by naked eye. That's my point. So it would start to be seen from around December. And that was the time it goes through the Ophiuchus and then come to the Sagittarius. And it will cross the ecliptic. It was cross ecliptic around the 17th of December. And then it will, have you seen a curve point, a turning point around the end of a Sagittarius? That is the position of around the New Year's. because this comet will arrive here. It's perihelion and at a 15 degree of Aquarius for the tropical degree, 15 Aquarius. But if you look, I know the Vedic look using the sidereal, but here what I show is constellation. All right, here what I show is constellation. So it's a whole Sagittarius constellation is the focus. So we can really, I think we can really go back to think, what does Sagittarius mean? Doesn't matter Vedic or tropical view. I think it's foreigner, culture, religion. And I heard about this subject has been brought up by several times by all other colleagues for the last couple hours. And I agree, because this comet was to keep an eye on it, not because it's so small, but we can see it. It's not a big comet, it's not a great comet, but it can be seen by naked eye, and so there is an effect on us. So around the Sagittarius theme about education, higher education, and international affair or foreign affair, and trading, and then cultural differences. I think this comet should be focused on this, you know, the Sagittarius thing. It'll be very, very interesting for next year, because usually we will take the comet's influence for what next year, so whole year.
Interesting, Rod, because around the time that it's turning in its path,
Yeah,
we have a new moon in the middle of Sagittarius.
Yes.
Constellation. So those of us who are seeing the comet in the sky, it'll be a dark night. It will be very, very, very pronounced when it's turning at the end of Sagittarius. There.
Yes.
We have a new moon in the middle of Sagittarius.
Yeah, then that would be cool. Yeah, that would be cool.
Can I, Rod, when is this happening exactly? Which month?
Okay, it's from December, and it's perihelion. The point, the turning point there. Have you seen the tail in the end of Sagittarius? In the end of Sagittarius, there's a turning point. That's on the 3rd of January 2020.
The green red curves, the green line curves.
Green line curve.
End of December, early January.
That's the turning point. And that degree, on that couple of days, comet is located in tropical one. Tropical degree is 15 Aquarius. So I think you can convert it to the
Sorry, Rod. It hits the ecliptic on the 15th of December at 1716, or is it?
Okay. What I just say is it's on the 3rd of January 2022. Its location is at 15 Aquarius. That's the perihelion. That's where it turned the direction. And usually this point is quite important for comets, because it either because it's so close to sun, it either survive or it continue.
Oh.
Yeah. So it usually is kind of quite important.
Wow. But my question was the moment it hits the ecliptic.
The moment it hits ecliptic.
Sorry, this is important for me.
Sorry. Yes. Okay. I have a degree. Just a moment. All right. I think.
Yeah, but it's on the 15th of December, or is it?
Give me 1 second.
Yeah.
Tania, give me 1 second. I have data to check. I think it is I need to grab my ephemeris. The day it go to conjunct, go across the ecliptic is 17th of December. Yes. I think it's between 16 to 17 December. And I think 17 December is quite far. I think it's 16 December. The degree is 12 Capricorn.
Oh, so it hit this comet hit the ecliptic passing through the constellation of Sagittarius,
Yes.
the same day, I'm just looking at the activation of this because the sun moved into Sidereal Sagittarius on the
yes.
same day.
Okay.
And can I also add, what
Yeah.
is interesting is suddenly it struck me that in Brihat, which one is it? Of Varamira's, sorry?
Jataka.
Yeah, is Brihat Jataka or is it the other Panchashadika? I'm trying to remember because I did send
Brihat
some.
Samhita.
Oh,
Yes.
Samhita.
Okay. Thank you. There's also, I think it's part 2, one of the chapters he's given on extensively on comets. And I did send something to Rod.
Yes.
And I need to revisit that because when it says that you have a comet appearing a week or 10 days or 2 weeks after an eclipse, after a solar eclipse, it is very significant. And the way it rises and turns, there's a lot of information on that. I'm going to have a look at some point and then, that's a really interesting thing about comets rising because they don't, he doesn't have a very nice things to say about comets rising,
Yeah.
they don't bode very well, but of course not all comets are the same. And so, we have to take into account that too. But thank you, Rod, that is absolutely fantastic.
Thank
I
you.
have read this somewhere that if a rising comet shows up, it brings energy out, it pulls energy away, which would make sense in a visual way, right?
Yeah.
If it was visible at its setting, it would be the contrary.
Interesting.
So it's drawing. It's yeah.
So we had Comet Neowise or GeoWise or something.
Yeah, Neowise.
With COVID, so it announced COVID.
Yes.
And now we're having this comet that's announcing something else.
Yeah,
great point.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I don't know, Rod, can you remember when Neowise was seen? And was it as a setting? I remember it was pretty much in the north, as I could see from my house.
The
but
beginning,
I don't remember.
Was well, to be honest, you can see either way, depend on location.
Right. Yeah.
Depend on location, it change. Yeah. Like for this comet in the beginning was setting, and then when near the Christmas it become in the beginning was rising. So in the beginning of December is rising, but when it become more visible, like a couple weeks ago, it becomes setting. So it's more visible.
You're talking about Leonard now.
I'm talking about this one, Leonard. Yeah. Yes. So this one is setting at this moment.
Right.
Yeah, but I think you should look at the first visibility.
I see. The first visibility, I will agree with you, is rising.
Rising.
Yes.
So you said Tania was bringing something in. You said, yeah.
No. It's if it's rising.
Yeah.
I would say it takes it off because it goes. If it's setting, it goes toward the Earth. If it's rising, it goes away.
Okay. Yes.
Was my reasoning, but it's just a simple.
Visually speaking, right?
I see.
Yeah. Only visually speaking. Yeah.
Right. Makes sense. And Sagittarius, traditionally also indicates war and battle. So, and maybe as you were saying, the battle.
I'm curious about that. I'm really curious about that.
It's the battle.
It was a sign, even in Vedic, it's a sign that indicates battle.
Yeah.
Ideological, cultural battles, clashes of.
Yes, very likely.
Yeah.
Well, it is the battlefield. It indicates that change. I mean, the part man, part animal, so it's that conflict. And as that religious.
And the vaccines are made from animals, or made from what? What are they made from again?
Dog tissues.
Yeah, so we put in part human, part animal. We're becoming part human, part animal. So, but anyway, I don't want to go back to vaccines. But
can I?
But any vaccine or many vaccines are done with dog tissues. It's not the first one. Just usual. Right. Other vaccines are also done with dog tissues, right? So this is not a newcomer.
Not a new thing.
Right. Okay. Can I just add a little lighter touch to this before we slip back into the horror of vaccines? There's a film. the star actor is Leonardo
Okay.
DiCaprio.
Yes,
I know what you're talking
was.
about.
It's called
Don't look up.
Don't Look Up.
Yeah, I saw
And
it.
it's interesting that this particular comet is called Leonard.
Exactly.
And
Yes.
and
Oh
that
my God.
in the film, it is all about a massive comet hitting Earth and
Yeah,
destroying everything. So that's kind of really eerie. That I don't know.
I think
No?
no. If you look at if you watch the film, because I have nothing else to do over the Christmas,
Yeah.
so I watch it.
Yeah.
Interesting about this film is what we're talking about for last 3 hours is the when we facing all this kind of debating.
Yeah.
Some people take a ridiculous attitude, and some power like authority trying to cover the story. Some people just like, I don't care whatever you say, and some people it's
Yeah.
just like oh, you're just lying, and you
Yeah.
know, and those people who really take things serious are quite upset and angry. So I mean, all sort of an attitude or all sort of a reaction toward to disaster. That's what they're trying to focus on. It's quite interesting, and it's also quite Sagittarius, you know, the view of it.
Oh yeah, and in Vedic, Sagittarius is a battleground. You know,
Okay.
the whole Mahabharata and the Kurukshetra, the war of Mahabharata happened in the sign of Sagittarius. You know, so yeah, it is Sagittarius. Even though we may say, oh, you know, Jupiter's Mool Trikona, or rather Jupiter's
That's the
sign.
point. Yeah, people only fight when they think they're right.
Yeah,
yes.
Precisely.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
precisely.
it is a very much a Jupiter thing. Yeah.
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 So, you know, yeah, but on a personal level, I much rather have Jupiter in Pisces than Sagittarius.
I think this is another thing when we talk about the tropical Jupiter in Pisces conjunct Neptune. That maybe remind us go to inclusive and accept that we all different.
Absolutely.
And we all look at things different. There's no point to like I'm going to kill you because you have different point of view as I am. No, we just respect and live. I think that's one thing we can expect. I hope so, because historically it just showed a point, but it does teach us like you can see a lot of religions fight or huge fight happen during that time. So, but we've been told that we have to learn to respect each other and learn to be inclusive, and that other people have their own view and live too.
Yeah.
But we are already doing this, right? Western and Eastern astrology here. We are inclusive.
Excellent.
Thank you, Rod. We knew you were going to give us good news.
Thank
you,
you.
Rod.
I try not to.
Thank you very, very much, all the entire panel. I really, really thank you for all the precious pearls. And it will be shared across all platforms. So, you know, yeah, let's just be brave and usher in the brave new world.
Yeah, don't worry. It's not Comet hit to Earth. Don't worry. That's a movie. Sonal. That is movie.
You are saying don't look up, or are you saying don't look down?
Right. On that happy note, yeah, we are. Yeah. Anyone has anybody from the audience has anything to share, or you know, please feel free. It's your chance before we say goodbye for this longest ever. Yeah.
There is a Hopi.
Yeah.
There is a Hopi prophecy.
Yes.
Of the blue Kachina. Have you heard the blue Kachina star prophecy?
No, but do tell.
It is the blue Kachina prophecy is at the end of times, and humanity will have to choose between raising their vibration to match the divine consciousness plan, or aim for the hoop or go down the hole. So either you raise your vibration and elevate yourself to a higher plane, or you go down the hole into the abyss and do not survive.
Right.
That's the prophecy. And in some ways, all of this isolation does kind of turn oneself into inner dimensions, just as a
Agree.
consequence of
But
being
that-
alone so much.
That ties up with what I was saying right at the beginning. I mean, with Mars, it's either conflict or you become a spiritual warrior for the
Yeah.
higher thing, and that's what people are going to be confronted with.
And I
Absolutely.
kind of see that happening with Jupiter conjunct Neptune, expanding both the delusion and the spirituality. I just thought I'd throw that in.
Thank you. I think that is very beautiful. Because I think that what you just say remind me that Andre Babu talking about who studied the outer planet circle. He's just talking about when Jupiter conjunct with Neptune is very humanitarian things, and it expand our favor to the universal moral value. So
Yes.
I agree. So that I hope that the good way we can always apply it.
And
Yeah.
I think groups like this, where it's a more multinational flavor to it, even though we're limited in what we can discuss to some extent with time and just trying to get all of us to be able to talk. But I think that promotes the respect for all cultures and all points of view in a way that's pretty invaluable, and I think will become more important as time goes on.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you very much for listening. I have put in the chat box, the Telegram group for divinations, and there are 2 groups available. All of you are welcome to join divinations. We have throughout the year, we have lots and lots of events, some paid, some not paid. It doesn't matter, but do feel free. And my ethos is to bring in more of the sort of Vedanga, Jyotish, spiritual stuff, and as well as traditional Western Hellenistic techniques, and weave them sort of together, juxtapose them, because there's wisdom in both. So I would really, thank the panel a hell of a lot because of all their pearls. I couldn't have winged it on my own. And so do feel free. I've put the address link for the Telegram group, and there's another group, Sonwa, which specializes only in study of nakshatras and Vedic astrology for beginners. So feel free, drop me a line. My email you can grab hold of from the presentation. And thank you for our very esteemed and erudite panel, Paul, Gordon, Rod,
Thank you, everyone.
Ethan,
Thank you. Excuse
and
me while I was having my
Tania.
lunch.
I know, I'm sorry. I never thought it would take so much. It's like a marathon, really. But thank you very much. And
Thank you.
hopefully we won't be shut down.
Yeah.
So, yeah, okay,
can
lovely. Thank
Knock on the
you.
door.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
And Happy
Thank
New
you.
Year to everybody.
Oh, Happy New Year.
See you again.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. Thank you. And
Sonal.
everyone, Kathy, Michelle, Aditi, Oksana, and Christopher.